You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Excellent. Thank you, TCTV. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Clardy. I'm the chairman for the select board, and I'd like to call this budget meeting, at least from the select board's perspective, this budget meeting to order at 8:33 a.m.
Excellent. And I'm John Kaplan. I'm the advisory committee chairman. And I'm going to call the advisory committee to run this budget here meeting as well.
If we could all stand and Adam, if you could lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just for the purposes of people on this side of the table, what I'd like to just do a quick introduction, especially if people are at home wondering who everybody is. If we could start out on our far left, just introductions.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Andrew Moser, a member of the advisory committee.
John Kaplan, chairman of the advisory committee.
Noel Francis, co-chair of the advisory committee.
Tim Toth, vice chair of the select board.
Terry Griffith, select board.
Mike Curry, chair of the select board.
Matt Revard, member of the select board.
Julie Richard.
Clerk.
Select board clerk. Early.
Adam Lamontagne, town administrator.
Thank you very much. So today we've got the awesome task of going through, I say awesome as it is large, and it's I don't know, it's kind of fun to go through everything as well. We're going to go through the budget book, and we're going to hear from each of the departments and have general discussion on the way through. This is our meeting. John and I are co-chairing it. I know everything goes through the chair, but I want people to actually feel like they can participate, ask questions. So as long as we have decorum, I'm completely having this as like almost like a working group, so people feel free to ask questions. I would prefer to hear people not talk over. It's very confusing for people watching at home or on YouTube if you have more than one person talking. So try and police yourself just to not talk over someone else or let someone finish their thought. We are going as long as we need to today. And we can, again, police ourselves for that. We have a lunch break starting at noon, and that will go for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back. CCTV, do you stop the broadcast or do you just pause it?
So we're just gonna do one stream and we're gonna put a meeting like in recess.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so there'll be some continuity for people watching at home, at least to know that the meeting is still going on. Before I turn it over to the town administrator so we can walk through the budget or for his opening, our cadence for today is to we start with all of the department heads. They give the by account description of the pages as we go through the book. For those following at home, the budget book is actually out on the web. I believe it was a news item, so you go right to the town webpage, and it's right at the top of the news. I believe that's in PDF format. As we've had in years past, sometimes the page numbers don't align. As we open it up ourselves, we'll be able to say a page 11 as we talk through our paper hard copy report may be a different number than the PDF. So if you're following along at home, don't get discouraged. Just kind of listen to what the text is of rather than page 11, we'll wind up saying advisory committee. Just to be able to go through that. And I think after we do the first few, people will understand the differences between the electronic copy and the paper copy. So we've got a busy day ahead. John, did you want to add anything?
No, you're great, Mike.
All right, thank you. Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What you have in front of you is the general fund request of $10,871,090.
Oh, 10 minutes.
This takes months and months of working with all the department heads, making sure that there's adequate resources for all their departments. We're in a service funded this year. Select board shows that at their goal setting retreat.
Mhm.
We're looking at roughly a 4.25% increase from fiscal year 24. We have some major revenues that went up, 2.5% levy increase of roughly 300,000. Building permits from the Baldwin school sale process of 245,000. Actually, I'm thinking that's going to be much higher. Excise tax of 75,000, new growth of 70,000, and state unrestricted general government aid of roughly 70,000. So because of the Baldwin school sale, that significantly helped out this budget process. And I'm looking forward to hearing all the departments. They worked hard with me putting together this book, and we're going to start off this evening with Bob, and he actually has some good news.
This is the morning.
Because well, it's going to go into this evening, so thanks for correcting me.
Oh, there you go.
My apologies, I misspoke. But I think Bob also has some good news here too. He was really focusing on his staff's been down since 2013. It's in this budget, he's able to add one more tree laborer. We're looking at going in with Winston for another intermunicipal agreement with them having another tree laborer as well. So in that intermunicipal agreement, obviously that'll go in front of the select board for approval, as well as this position within the budget. We're looking at having a tree crew of 2 folks alternating between the town of Templeton and Winston, and really help us get ahead of our tree inventory. The select board already received that report. So Bob, you could take it from here. When you get to your personnel page under highway, you could explain that a little further, okay?
Yep.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'm all set, and I look forward to this morning as well as going into this evening, and thank you for Mr. Rebar for correcting me.
I know that we got the budget book on Wednesday and the electronic was made available. That is not, as we have said in our Wednesday meeting, that's not ideal. If we need more time, then we will make the time necessary to be able to do that. I know we say that every year, and we actually have done that. I think during the COVID year, when we were online, I think it was like a 10-hour meeting. If we need to go over, or if we need to adjourn and use the snow day or another time period, then we'll approach doing. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, just for the public's information, Mr. Sosik's presentation for the public services begins on page 76
Thank you.
of the budget book.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hopefully the numbers line up within a page or
Yes,
so.
I'll find out right now.
No, they don't. Good morning, everybody. Bob Sozik, Department of Public Services. The first page, page 76, under my mission and statements, accomplishments and goals. Is there any questions on that?
On Mr. Sosik, on goal number 2, reach complete streets tier 3, can you just explain that a little bit more, please?
What year are you in, Matt?
FY24 goals and their current status?
Yes, it's a process that I go through with MassDOT and training. I actually have I had an online class last week. I had to take the course, and then I'm going to a in-person class Tuesday of this week, I believe. It's continuing reaching that tier 3 and bringing our roads into the most up standards like bike lanes, pedestrians, stay out 4 feet, so out of that category.
Bob, did you put in that you and Mary Beth are implementing training and working on the software package voted on?
Oh, that was already approved last year.
Yeah.
That's ongoing.
Ongoing.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
an accomplishment, and I've been attending that.
Yes, that'll be going on ongoing for a couple of years anyway.
Okay, so it's another thing that you're
Yeah.
doing. It's a commitment every week and
Oh, yeah,
going
absolutely.
well. And I think that the town's gonna like it. I'm gonna give an update, but that it's gonna have inventory of all our trucks and what have you. on it.
Actually, yes, all our assets will be on it.
Yeah, because I know some people are interested in doing a paper copy and having it at the office. So I'll let you know that
Yep.
as we go forward. Again, another thing that the public might not have known Bob's accomplishing, and Mary Beth.
Just because I'm thinking of it right now, just procedural. For the people from the public that is participating, I don't mind if you participate as well, but if I just want to be able to say you're welcome to. Yeah, that's all I need to say.
Well said.
But I obviously reserve the board members first. Yep. And sorry, you know.
So moving into highway, I don't know if your page is the same line, but it's 78.
Yep.
5100 account, personnel account. All these raises are done according to union contract on most of the guys. I believe there's one more year left on that contract after this year. And as you can see, as Adam stated, we added in a tree laborer. Been talking about this for a couple of years, how we can increase and get more done in Templeton for us tree work. We do have a bucket truck that's 40 feet, which we are limited to higher stuff on that. Thinking about it and talking with Winchendon, director and town administrator, we come up with idea of if we each hire a tree laborer and alternate the weeks in town, we're gonna be getting much more done than we are now, besides just putting out fires. Eventually, I'd like to see it grow down the road where we actually have a storm truck so we can pick up brush and logs safely off the road and bring them to like a wood bank over there at the landfill, and they can open up on the weekends for residents.
Is that what it's referred to as, a wood bank?
Yeah,
Yeah. For that.
and you can get grants for that as well.
Oh.
So as I spoke to Winchendon yesterday, both Bill and Brian, and they're still moving forward and strongly feel that they're not gonna have a problem getting this position passed on their side.
Any questions, 5100?
Just real quick, on your overtime and call-in bonuses, you comfortable with those amounts for the next fiscal year? I don't know where you're sitting right now as far as that goes for this current year, but
I am, the reason being is I'm gonna be losing another individual 1st of April, so I'll have 2 out. Until we get through what's going on with a couple of employees. There might be a couple of new faces this summer, but once we get there, we're not off to a great start, having 2 guys out, but I'm comfortable with that number.
okay, I just wanted to, figure I'd ask it.
Great. Any other questions, 5100? 5110?
5110, page 79. Not too much that really changed here. The uniforms did go up a little bit. Most of this stuff that's on there has to be done, and also according to the union contract as well, as far as boots and uniforms and jackets and all the safety stuff.
All right, any questions for 5110?
Just a compliment, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank you for outlining very clearly on this what the requirement is in your collective bargaining agreement with your personnel as to where these where the requirements are. So thank you.
You're welcome. No further questions. We can move right on to 5200, page 80. Purchase of services. There was some increases on this, like the inspection lift went up. Inspections. AC repair, a lot of this. All parts and liquids, everything's gone up substantially and increasing on the cost. Pump maintenance. They go up a little bit. We gotta start looking into replacing them down the road. But overall, it's not too bad.
Who does the vehicle inspections, Bob?
More, the vehicle inspections is, Polly at CONS, the regular, vehicle like you drive. That's the same price you pay, but
Yep.
the commercial vehicles are more involved truck inspection. And those are like $140.
Bob, you're doing forecasting for your vehicles as far as maintenance requirements,
I'm sorry,
forecasting requirements for your maintenance
with who?
with yourself and your department, forecasting what you're gonna need in like a year, 2, 10 years from now, if you have the same vehicle, you know.
Yeah, well,
Cause you were talking
I'm
about pumps.
hoping next year we'll be in better shape once we receive the other 2 trucks, and if we get one more, we'll be in real good shape.
Oh, I'm sure. yeah.
As the old stuff, I didn't make any major adjustments this year because I
Right.
don't know when I'm gonna get those trucks.
Okay,
And I put, between just the 2 10-wheelers, I put almost over 15,000 in them just to use them.
got it.
We'll never get our money back, but it's keeping the service going for the winter.
I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, that new, again, I'm plugging that new software, that's gonna keep track of everything.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, Jeff always, like a leaf spring, it used to cost $600. Now they're almost $3,000.
Hmm.
That's how much everything's going up.
And it has it's coded so that if it's needing it, one color if it needs attention, one color if it's done, and one color if it's in the queue.
Wow.
So he'll be able to, that helps
That'd be
with
great.
forecasting.
That's a really good point.
Any other questions? or-
Far away. You don't.
Oh, okay. This is probably a joint question for both you and the town administrator, Bob. I see on here that you had requested $24,000 for painting road center lines, and the town administrator has his recommendation is to not give that money. Is there a plan otherwise to do that? And what is that?
This
plan?
year we'll be doing some of the roads with 24s.
FY 24 money, okay.
And we're this is where probably a good chunk of my cut was
Mhm.
to try to make things work for the town and with Adam. And then next year we'll put it back on there. I'll have to,
FY 26.
yeah.
Are you using chapter 90 money for some of that as well? I mean, you did in the past.
I kind of like to focus the chapter 90 money just on improving the roads.
Excellent. Thank you.
We just repaired the Hamlet Bridge that took a small chunk out of my plan for 25 as well, so.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Bob, the 12,500 equipment specialty vendor. That.
Yeah, that's special certified welding, metals, stuff like that. For Madigan parts for the trucks.
Madigan, got it. For a vendor.
Question on the tree cutting removal pruning, you have $15,000 listed with a quantity of 12. Is that going to be enough to get us through, or is?
Well, it's been at that the last few years, I think, or pretty much when I started. It's like I say, if we get the tree guy, that's going to help substantially. But I use that. It don't take long to spend, and I actually spent most of that up around your area this year. It depends on the size of the tree, and what's involved. I mean, if it's a big tree, it could be a $2,000 tree. Or if it's a small one, it could be an $800 tree. The company I've been using has been giving us good deals and very reasonable removing the trees. It's never going to be enough. If we have another incident like the ice storm, that's why I want to focus on getting somebody and getting a storm truck, and so we're not going through all that panicking and trying to find vendors to come in because they're all tied up. But
I think to clarify too, that if we get the tree laborer here, you said you have the 40-foot bucket truck already in-house.
right,
The smaller to mid-sized trees, you're not gonna have to contract out
No.
anymore. You're gonna be able to do those internally.
Right.
And being able to do those internally is a cost savings as opposed to having to go out to
yeah,
a tree company.
So, yeah,
There's gonna be a help there, obviously. You'll be able to get more done.
it'll be above 40 feet, and for a crane or a storm truck to remove the debris or. Unfortunately, we are better off than a lot of other towns with this tree budget. A lot of other towns are only like $5 or $6 grand. And some down
That goes
towards
nowhere.
Boston, they're up in the 100,000s.
And Bob, you do collaborate with the other departments such as light,
who does a lot of pruning
Yes,
over the wires.
our crews just recently went through a certified bucket truck class that I hosted here in town.
Mhm.
But they're not certified for wires, so if I have something with wires, they usually come out first when we work with them. And during a storm, they'll get it in a safe zone and then we'll take over for them.
Yeah, but my point I was trying to make is obviously there's huge collaboration across the town with the other departments, sewer, water, and electric, that they all work together.
Yep, no, we work real well with
Yep.
each other so far. Great, no complaints.
All right, any other questions for 5,200? That was good discussion. All right, let's move on to 5,400 supplies.
Page 81 supplies, we adjusted the batteries, have gone up in price, that's only figuring like half the batteries that we carry. I don't count every single battery. I figure on replacing like half within the fleet throughout the year, so that number is at 20. Some trucks take 2 batteries, some trucks take 4 batteries, the cars take 1 battery or 2 batteries, so it's been a good average and it's worked out.
Bob, quick question for you on this, well, 2 questions for you. I noticed there's a large lump sum disallowed on this particular account. I assume that you and Adam are comfortable with that lump sum disallowed as far as this goes?
Yeah, like I said, it's the gas and oil the last couple of years, holding where we are.
Mhm.
And when we reach out to them, they don't anticipate it skyrocketing.
I did
So-
notice that you're planning for 5 1/4 for diesel fuel and 350 for gasoline, and obviously currently we're well below those numbers, so there's pad there, and I get that,
Right,
so. Yeah.
so I think we'll be okay with that this year.
I think those numbers are very conservative and appropriate. Those, if we look backwards 3 and 4 years when the prices were really jumping.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yep. Oh, no.
We're trying to stay ahead of it.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%, no,
We will stay ahead
Oh,
of
I
it.
don't disagree with planning for the pad, because you're right, the oil prices can fluctuate on a, sometimes it feels like on a daily basis, so. No, I agree with it, so I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that we're comfortable with the lump sum disallowed, because it's a very large lump sum disallowed for this particular line. That's why my concern, I wanted to ask the question.
Nice attention to detail on that.
And you're using the state contracts for that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dennis Burke has got the state contract.
Yep.
Right now.
lump sum disallowed doesn't.
I was
There's
just
2 ways
getting,
you can do it. You can do a state contract or you can go out to bid.
So these
As well.
numbers.
The fuel oil, the heating oil, we go out to bid every June.
So you adjusted it?
Thank you.
I was just gonna observe as someone who drives a diesel, I hope there's a lot of pad in these numbers, so.
It's been okay in the last couple of years. Like I said, it's,
It's expensive.
I haven't. Enough to come forward and ask for extra money. I mean, a couple, like Tim said, a couple of years ago when everything jumped up, yeah, I was nervous at it.
Yep.
Adam, I know you went over lump sum disallowed last year. Could you please go over it again?
Like what it is used for?
What it is, how we
Yeah, that's a good
subtract it?
question.
So
So
you-
as a tool, not this one specifically, could you just?
Sure.
You as the town administrator reviewing.
So if you see this 5,400 request is 317,190 and the lump sum disallowed is 52,190, it's a bottom line cut on not any particular item within this. But I also want to note too, this is a higher number than fiscal year 24. And I took into consideration not only the diesel and those costs, but the fact that Bob will be getting 2 new 6-wheelers as well. That will be under warranty. So taking all those into consideration and talking with Bob, going back and forth, we came up with 265 to be an appropriate number.
So it's at his discretion where he wants throughout the year to use that
Correct.
with.
Mhm.
Okay.
When you, just to clarify, because I did the math on a calculator real quick, when you add up the FY 25 administrator recommended numbers,
Total.
then subtract the lump sum disallowed, the bottom number of $265,000 comes out. So that's how you need to look
So
at it.
total 317 minus
Right.
52 equals.
Right, yeah, Bob's request was 317, 190. Lump sum disallowed of 52, 190 can come from wherever Bob needs it to come from in those lines, coming out to 265,000.
Hedging it on fuel.
Right, exactly, and he's hedging it on fuel because like you said, he's got 525 and 350 listed in there for diesel and gasoline prices. Right now, we're well below that. Obviously, he's planning a pad for in case they go up, but right now it would put him in pretty good shape.
And two new trucks.
Excellent.
And
Right,
good
would help with the repairs and maintenance too.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Andrew.
All set,
Yes, sir.
Yep, 54,
Thank you.
moving on to 5,600.
5,600, page 82, police details, it's $53 an hour, 4 hour minimum. They have a list of certain streets that they won't let us work on without a detail. It impinges on us in a way because we're trying to get a lot done, but we end up running out of money every year on police details.
How much, where are you right now for this budget year on police details, just out of curiosity?
I think
Same
I
budget,
had-
I'm assuming? Same number?
Yeah, I think I have enough for 2 days and, I'm kind of holding on to them in case I have an emergency.
Mhm.
If not, I can use it for, pruning trees on the main roads or. It'll-
And
it'll-
is it the same is the number the same for FY 20? This should say FY 25 request. But is it the same number is this the same number as you have for 24?
I believe so.
6095?
Yes,
So you just have to be judicious with when you use it, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
and if I have to, I mean, I'm watching my budget, if I have to do transfer.
Yep.
I'll do a transfer. Moving on to highway 5,700. Page 83. This is basically your capital page.
Okay.
Which is nothing.
But it looks like there's plans for everything. Either via the capital sketch, special articles, or the Main Street Bridge. We know what we're gonna do there.
Like I say every year, I wish and hope the town focuses on increasing that capital budget to finish rebuilding all the departments. It's very well needed. Any questions? You see that?
Unfortunately, no.
Just a quick comment on that. I agree with you, Bob, that capital really needs to focus on some of these monies within every department, because it's been ignored for a long time now.
Yeah.
We really need to look at that.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question real quick, Bob? Road widener attachment joint with Winchendon, is that to supplement because I know you already have a track paver here in town that you use for some roads.
We don't have a track.
What do you do? Do you contract all your paving? I thought you had a track.
No, no, that's a paving machine. Yeah,
Okay.
That's contracted out with Mass Broken
Okay.
Stone.
So what's the road widener attachment? Just discuss that,
It's on the
please.
front of our existing loader.
Okay,
And after we pave, we can either put dump loom into it. Or
Okay.
regrinds or gravel. And it just fills in the void from the edge of the road to the property line.
Okay.
Instead of having 4 guys with hand and rakes and shovels. and
okay,
they fill-
that makes sense. Okay.
No other questions or jumping into buildings and grounds? Page 84.
And just for people following along at home, if we say 84, you will add 19. And you will have the correct page in the PDF. So just
Oof.
add 19. I'll come up with what numbers they are as we go along, but. So 84 plus 19 gives you the PDF. I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Okay.
So on the personnel, 5,100 account for buildings and grounds, most of the raises are, the non-union come up in the fall, but we did give the custodian a raise for this coming fiscal year, which is well deserved. And we do have a couple of seasonals in there. And we It's getting tougher and tougher each year for seasonals.
Yeah.
Gonna have two this year, but one can only do a couple of days, one can only do 3 days. And like I said, that overall, I think between the seasonals and other costs and other areas in the budget that, I mean, a third individual on building grounds would be well needed and well spent, for what we're chasing around the seasonal help and,
The third FTE you're talking.
yeah.
about.
There's enough work in town, everything at the parks and everything.
Excuse me.
Property, just so much going on. And for two full-time guys, it's overwhelming at times, and just with the mowing, if we have a wet summer and the grass don't burn out on us. There's enough to do, and then if we have a funeral too, there's a lot going on in buildings and grounds.
I should, Mr. Chair.
Fire away.
I've noticed that Mr. Sosek has requested an additional building and grounds person for as long as I've been on advisory now, which is close to 3 years. And I think that if he's asking for that, it's really needed. And I guess I would like to ask the board if you could look into the upcoming fiscal year, not this fiscal year, but fiscal year 26 to add that position. I think it's really needed. Mr. Sosek has asked for it for a long time. I know that's the type of position that you could probably swap around with different tasks, and it would give Mr. Sosek some more flexibility. And I just think it's a need, and that it should be addressed, down the road, given some priority.
I agree, Noel. And part of the beauty of this, of what we're doing today, it can happen right in front of our eyes. And what I mean by that, if you recall last year, we were able to fully fund, we were able to fully fund your Candace, your administrative assistant hours, because we were able to shift some of the budget stuff. So I think the question would be, Bob, which line item here best represents a person that Noel would be talking about?
It would be the one under the foreman laborer.
Sure. So that's a 54,000 line item.
Yeah, I mean.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, if you take the seasonal and what we're putting off of that, and whereas the labor, I'm sure it'll be starting out probably around 17 and not 18.
That was my question.
So,
Can I toss a little, can I toss some numbers out here? If you take, looking at page 84 on the paper budget, if you were to add up the wages of the 2 seasonal laborers plus the custodian, okay, that comes out to 32,000 and change. The laborer, 40 hours, 52.6 weeks per year at $18 an hour is 37,872. It's not that far off. We're talking about a difference of $5,000, $6,000 just for a laborer there. We're talking a little bit more of a jump to go to a foreman, obviously, but we're talking about maybe $5,000, $6,000 in change in order to get to a full-time 40-hour a week, 52 week a year person on Bob's budget. If he were instead willing to give up his seasonal labor in order to put that to a full-timer. Just a thought process. I'm trying to.
you couldn't.
You also would have to add benefits.
yeah.
And be able to maintain those benefits.
Don't add the custodian with it though, because
That's a separate position.
That's also not enough hours for what he's doing.
So we're looking at $13,000 then, just for the salary portion of it in this line.
Noel brought up an interesting point. Within this budget, though, you'll see when Parks and Rec come up that they have a seasonal laborer that they're looking to fill,
Mhm.
which will help because their seasonal labor will just be take care of the parks. And then that way, all of his folks at Building and Grounds won't have to be over at Gilman all the time. They'll have their own seasonal labor there. So they'll be able to shift some of that workload where these folks could focus on what they're doing. But I get what you're saying. But I want to bring the fact that we have been talking about this. The tree labor was more of a priority of Bob's at this moment in this budget. So that's why we focused our efforts. Thank you, Noel.
Just some things to think about through there, but I agree with you, Noel. You know, as we go through it, that's definitely something I'm writing down.
Good point. Okay, any other questions? 5100 now.
I have a question on this. Bob, it looks like you planned for the seasonal laborers working 40 hours a week, but you said that you think they're only gonna be able to work 2 or 3 days a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, the two, unfortunately, I've been fortunate enough to get the same ones back over the last 3 years, but they're cutting back on that time. So I did have a kid last year, but he only worked for about a month and a half. He's got a full-time job. So I mean, there is enough wiggle room. If I do have a school kid or somebody come forward, I'll have the money.
Add an extra
Yeah.
person or something with that money?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Think we're good with 5100? Move on 5110.
110, page 85, employee support. There was no changes in that. This is their boots, their safety jackets, t-shirts, some training.
All OSHA requirements,
What's that?
all OSHA requirements?
No, well, the steel toe boots, yes, that's social requirement. Safety jackets, that's mandatory.
Mhm.
T-shirts is, summer uniform, basically. A late t-shirt, cotton t-shirt.
You have cell phone on here too for $52. Well, $6.24. Is that your cell phone?
No, it's, the foreman has a cell phone.
12,
What's that?
12 cell phones.
12.
Is that 12 months?
12 months, yeah.
12 months,
Okay.
$52 a month.
So we don't do a collaboration of that, like up here at the town hall to manage the cell phone basis?
Yeah, Holly gets all the phones. I don't know the whole story. I don't might, but,
Portions though, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Adam.
So Holly takes care of all the phones. The way this works is his foreman's cell phone comes out of this budget. But she has all the phones. So
Okay.
most of the phones come out of the IT budget.
I got you.
This is just a sharing question. Did you buy a noise canceling headphones for the machinery when it's in?
oh, we supply, ear protection, yes.
I've seen like bad, but I've seen police details out in some of the loudest situations without them. Are they allowed to wear them?
That's not my department. If they're around heavy equipment or, I mean, it's an advantage to them, yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm paying for it now. I've been around equipment and fire trucks all my life and I'm affected with it. But to hear somebody yelling or screaming with ear protection, you ain't gonna hear that,
Right.
so.
Interesting point earlier. John was having a sidebar. He turned off his microphone. If you guys want to have a sidebar, no problem. You probably just want to turn off your microphone if you're gonna do that. Perfect.
Oh,
Okay. There's a button there. Okay, but that, I saw you do that.
Yes.
That was good.
Yeah, you have to hold it.
Okay.
Thanks, George.
We all good on the 5110?
It is.
I think so.
All right. Moving into the buildings and grounds on the purchase services of 5200 account. The solid waste hasn't, that's locked in. I think that's a 3-year contract. Like I stated last year when we started with winter waste, we had a $400 amount savings each year. Switching with them. The furnace cleans did go up. And I really wanted to separate the waste oil furnaces, maintenance and repairs. From a regular furnace PM. Because it's a different company and a different service than a oil furnace. The other changes was miscellaneous repairs and maintenance. Went up pretty good on that because we have a lot going on and it's small money. Like I have a bathroom floor here that's $2,000. A lot of small stuff popped up. And it eats away at the budget real fast, and if something really an emergency happened, I mean, there's no cushion, there's nothing there for repairs. We have plenty of building maintenance to do on all the buildings. And this would help out substantially if we ever get to the point of catching up to continue improving each building over the years.
Bob, does ADA come under this?
No. I mean, if there's half, 3/4 way through, but if there's nothing that forecasted that's coming up, yes, we can continue improving ADA with it as well. Like the front steps out here, we ran out of money. I think that was almost $7,000 just to do them. Everything's just so expensive, but
Bob, can I ask again, can you explain the solid waste with Gilman Waite?
so we have a dumpster at the cemetery garage down off of Bridge Street. We keep it down there,
Mhm.
and the crews go up with the trucks and bring the rubbish from Gilman Waite and put it in that one down there.
Basically, you don't keep a dumpster at Gilman Waite for
Right.
trash, you transport it over to there.
Yeah, unless Candace, like last year, she had a big function and they actually donated a can to put over there for
Oh.
her. For her functions.
Thank you.
I do have a question, concerning the replacement of the fuel oil tanks. I know that came up, before the capital committee.
Yep.
I just want to ask, what is the status of that? I know that's not a day-to-day expense.
I'm hoping to get the money from capital and it's gotta be done or we won't be getting oil next year.
I think I saw that in the book somewhere.
Yeah, I saw that too. How about, Bob, how about money that you already have set aside that's obviously in the, from last year's budget, say, let's say the cupola in this building? Do we have plans? I mean, obviously.
CPC money for the cupola, and that's Adam's getting ready to put that out to bid.
Okay, thank you.
But the oil tanks, yeah, that's very high priority for the town to get those all changed. I'm hoping come July 1st, after the town meeting, if it's been approved through capital, they can start on them right away. They really didn't want to fill them this year, but they're kind of doing us a favor in doing so.
And just a follow-up question, is this something that might have to go, in front of advisory for, use of our reserve funds?
If less capital doesn't go through on capital, gotta get the money somewhere.
Well.
I'm nervous with my budget this year because I gotta pay a couple of bills, like Winchendon Transfer Station that we were already into the season when we regionalized them on the rubbish, so I gotta take a chunk, pay that. As I get closer to the end of the year, will I have enough? I don't know as of yet.
I mean, you brought up bills. Do you project any late bills for next year that you've unforeseen?
No, the light bills, we did add on, the dog shelter, because that's, regional again with Winchendon, for utilities. Unfortunate enough, I was able to work with Jeff Aldrich on the sewer department. And he's only charging us minimum on all our buildings. That's awesome.
Right.
I wish the light and water were like that, but, fantastic. They have one set rate for all buildings.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? 5,200. Move on to 5,400.
5,400, bumped up the supplies a little bit. And the postal stamps went up, as everybody knows. Other than that, it's, no other really changes on that.
Can I make a compliment?
Hmm?
Of all the departments, Bob finds a way to include Christmas lights in his budget. He had them on his building. He's frustrated because it's not big enough, but he takes to heart the beauty of the town and trying to get people's spirits lifted at the holidays. I just wish more departments had money or allocated as humble as $200 is. It's something. And I noticed with Bob in his budgeting, he has a big heart, but he makes it fit with his budget and he does put something in, whether it's for the trees, like his goal towards, having that wood bank. He puts something and I really appreciate that, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob, just a question on the oil heat and the propane heat. What's the price per gallon you're basing those numbers on?
Same as last year.
Which is?
Yeah, it was 439, something like that.
For both?
No, not for both.
439 for oil?
Yeah. The propane is also state bid price through Superior, which used to be Roy Brothers. They didn't give us a new rate this year. They don't expect to go up, so we didn't change nothing on the propane.
Okay.
And we've been okay with the estimated gallons, police, senior center. And using the propane, the only other propane, Fallen Fire Department, they have a generator that runs on propane. That's on a all-call basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions? 5,400.
Just one. You break down the flag holder stuff. Why is it not on the veteran service account? Veterans,
Good question.
where most of the flags, at least the gray flags, through the system are reimbursed.
This is the way it's been since I started.
Okay.
Alan, I haven't changed that.
Is there a possibility to look into it? Or is
Well,
it just the way it is? Like sometimes I could tell a joke, but I'm not going. Sometimes because that's the way we've always done it, doesn't mean that it can't be looked at and compared to what's necessary today. Just because we've always done it that way, sometimes doesn't cut it.
I understand, but it's still a cost.
It is.
Right.
It's John saying, where does it
Yep.
belong?
Yeah,
So
Right.
so we might want to look
I
at it.
understand what you're saying, but it's still. a
Oh, I
cost.
would never take that away.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm
John's
just saying,
is, why isn't it on the veterans?
Right.
budget?
Yeah.
Because their budget's broken down the same as everybody else's. So, and I mean, it's a lot different now because it's actually broken down like everybody else's. Before it was just like one line item. It was just salary. That was it. There was no other,
Yeah.
no other.
He executes it. Yeah.
is it worth looking into or just
No. Okay, I got it.
Because it's
status
still,
quo?
if he's managing it, it's on his budget, even though the purpose, we would say, oh, flags, that's, that should be veteran.
I wouldn't have,
When you say look into.
I wouldn't
it,
have till
it
John
comes
just
with a
asked.
cost. Okay.
Well, my other concern is making sure that whatever cemetery flags you get, the receipt goes to the veteran service officer for reimbursement. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Might
Right,
help.
that would be my concern there.
Yeah.
Is because if you put these two budget items together, it's $2,300. If we can get a reimbursement on even partial of that, we should be looking at that.
The cemetery flags, meaning the
The
smaller
special-
ones are 100% reimbursed by the state
That's what I thought. Okay.
under the chapter 115 guidelines. Which will go back into the general fund, obviously, under the cherry sheet.
Everyone good with that?
Who would
or-
look into it so that it's an accomplished goal?
I'll look into it with Michelle. See what she has on her side. I know before Michelle, we had a few different ones. I would buy them, they would buy them, I give them the receipts. I haven't dealt with Michelle on the flags yet, so.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Michelle and
Thank you.
So are we leaving that as a potential cost savings?
It would be a potential cost savings,
Okay.
reimbursement.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
You have a hand up in the back.
Yes, ma'am.
My own,
Yep, you just gotta make sure you're projecting so that the microphone can pick it up.
Bob, my only question is, in these supplies, are you allowing for not sealing, but sealing the cracks in the parking lots?
no, that's nothing to do with parking lot maintenance.
Is there anything in the budget that does?
No, you can't use chapter 90 money in the parking lots. That's why I was hoping for the ARPA money back when we were started discussing the
Yep.
expenditure plan.
Sure.
Fix all the parking lots. But, the crack ceiling, I do have a possible window. I gotta see how much the bricks are. Winchendon has a crack sealer. Which they said I could borrow anytime for some crack sealing on the parking lots. I just have to buy the stock. I don't know what that costs.
Yeah, because they get kind of big.
Good question though, but the discussion during the ARPA, that was definitely, it didn't make the final cut, but it was in there.
Can I ask which parking lot are we referring to?
Senior center,
Thank you.
they all need work.
I would add this one as well.
I couldn't figure if it was this one or senior
They
center.
crack sealed that side a few years ago on this one. The rest of it's junk.
Any other on 5,400? All right, moving on to 5,600.
5,600, like I said, that's basically just concentrate on your water, sewer and electric. And we reached out, they don't anticipate any big increases. So there's really nothing that has changed on that. And as you can see, we got the municipal lights lump sum in there for 15,699.
Ooh, the streetlights, excellent.
Like I said, it was very pleasing to find out sewer department is just gonna level fund each, same with every building. That's awesome.
So I have a question. Some people may or may not be aware that water bills have gone up this month. And there's a component of it that's a per account bill access fee or something like that. Are you paying that? And if so, are you paying it separately for each of these properties?
Each property is billed separately. They bill us for each location separately.
And do they do like a quarterly flat fee the same way they do for everybody else?
Yeah, we get billed just like you would at home
Okay,
for each location.
so I believe the rates were changed in the last few weeks. Is that taken into account here?
I'm not 100% sure if that's counted for or not. When we reached out to them before this, they weren't anticipating.
My rate went up I paid about 25% more than I did a quarter ago, so.
Can I just step in on that conversation? I did go to the Light and Water Commissioners.
Yep.
When they did that vote, this is temporary. What
Mhm.
people don't realize is in their last quarter of their fiscal year over there, they needed to pinch. And it was because they had to unexpectedly replace an entire water main in East Templeton during the construction of the new, actually 4, thank you, John. So what they did was for the last quarter, they increased everyone by 25%. This will go away. This is temporary
Yep.
and it's gone on July 1st. I mean, it
Subject
is
to an
still,
upload in June, right?
right.
So,
The last one you're gonna see
It's not quick.
is in June.
so then this would be theoretically, if the town is paying the same rates on all these as everybody else, and there was a 25% increase, is that gonna increase your budget for this year? That we're
I would have to
currently
check.
experiencing?
Question.
Probably will, a little bit.
If it were to carry over.
Well, no, I mean, they're paying it, our bills were due last week or whatever, right?
Right, I just paid mine last week and went up 25%.
Exactly, and it'll be the same in June,
Yeah.
so
And
that may
the same-
impact his budget for FY 24.
Yeah, will
I
impact.
think with the sewer, when they gave us one price, that might take this thing out of it for this year. I know every so often we'll go through and try to project the end of the year, what we have left, and
Shuffle
we
it.
just did that recently, and then we're okay.
Okay,
so far, so.
that just may be something we want to consider to your question earlier, I believe, if there's, or maybe not your question, if there's an anticipation of any unpaid bills that will be due.
Acting in the stead of the chair, questions from the back.
Yeah, just why is Scout Hall significantly more on water than the town hall cemetery? Because I'm looking at the different numbers, 664, 620, 700 for Scout Hall, when there'll be almost nobody in there. for the water? I don't understand we have a well, so I don't understand how the rates work. But I'm seeing different rates throughout the different buildings.
Well, it's not the rates. You're seeing different numbers, and I believe the numbers for Scout Hall are going, because Scout Hall's the completion is almost done. And at least my forecast is to get the scouts in there as quickly as possible. And not that they're dirty, they need more water, but it may be true.
Well.
I'm not sure, but I'm trying to get the scouts in there. I know I did have a conversation with Adam concerning Scout Hall, and obviously things are on track. I think the electrical is the last thing. And once that's done, then my job is to get the scouts back in there as quickly as possible, once we get some type of agreement with the select board.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it's $700 for Scout Hall.
That's what they estimated
Town halls.
over there. And until,
Yeah.
like John said, until we get in there and start use of the buildings, I'm sure we can readjust that.
Right.
But this is what.
Guesstimation.
So that's the water department's estimate.
Water, water and electric.
Your estimates, but the water department made these estimates.
I think our scouts are gonna flush the toilets a lot more than we can
I
flush
got
it.
the average from the light and water.
It's been a while since you-
That's nothing I come up with.
Oh, my.
The experts sometimes.
Just like the dog shelter, we're gonna have to go through a year. I'm working on your estimate. That might
I
have to
struggle
be
to get mine to
adjusted
flush
next
the
year.
toilet.
I'm trying to,
Folks,
sorry, Bob.
folks, can we limit the side conversations, please?
Sorry.
Mr. Zosik was speaking and you were actually speaking over him. I could not hear Mr. Zosik and I'm seated closer than three of you.
My apologies.
Thank you.
This-
And I'm not trying to be rude.
No,
just
my
point of
apologies.
order.
It's just like the dog shelter where we took on this year. I got an estimate from Light and Water of what that cost would be for that year. Once we go through a year, I might have to tweak it up or down a little bit, but on their average, that's what we're going by.
Thank you.
Do all the buildings have the new meters in them?
Yeah.
Okay.
That helps.
Go ahead, Gary.
We're not reviewing the light,
I like the water department, but,
well, I understand this is temporary increase, but are they planning for major improvements? I mean, the Rotary wasn't a surprise.
What do you-
I was letting the time wise, we're at, we're,
say, is Bob or is it?
I don't know the context of her questioning, so.
It was
If someone else would like to field Gail's question.
If I may,
Sure.
through the chair.
Remember, this is a budget workshop.
So how-
We don't have to
how I
ask
under-
permission.
How I understand it, Julie was at the meeting with the Templeton Light and Water. There was a $600,000 change order for the water mains. The water superintendent came here, requested ARPA funds, the select board were gracious, gave 300,000. I believe if that didn't occur, we would see even higher rates. But because the select board approved that, they just had to make up the gap the other way
Right, for that one project.
for that one
I'm
project.
just thinking of
Correct.
the future. You know, are they planning capital improvements?
They are. We work with them. I had a meeting with the general manager over there about a couple weeks ago or so. And we're working closely with them on the Maple School Street neighborhoods. Remember, that's a debt authorization as well as a CDBG funded project. We're working with them on that project. So you're gonna see significant improvements soon, especially in that section of Baldwinville, because we also have the Baldwinville School project. So we've been working closely with them there. Yeah. Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you. 5,600. All right, if you were on 5,700.
5,700 has been the same the past few years. It's just been it's a rotation of a backpack blower and a weed eater. That we replace every year.
Any questions? 5,700. Snow and ice.
Yeah, just give me two, I have this dispatch.
Oh.
Hello?
Just so for everyone's, we're running a little bit late right now. That's not a bad thing. because I want to make sure that, everyone has the chance to be able to ask your detailed questions, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. The police was scheduled for 9:30 and we still have parking.
All right, I'll get a barrel over there. I'm in town up there. Very good.
I excuse myself, I just
Thank you.
trying to do that background.
Excuse me, thank you.
I provided top cover, so people want to say it's an opportune time. Snow and ice.
So nice, so we're definitely improving on the snow and ice, slowly but surely. This year, it's not over yet, so when we were doing the snow and ice, budget, obviously, we were doing it through the budget season, so the end page, the final numbers aren't, concrete yet, so on the 5,100 account, that stayed the same on the workforce overtime and a temporary part-time power driver. On the 5,200 account, you got the contract plow operators, which are the subcontractors that we use in town. That's been a huge success in getting the streets open up much earlier. That slowly increases because obviously the rates go up a little bit. I did not go up last year. So that's pretty straightforward.
54.
5,400, we we rounded the salt off, the road salt, $200 a ton. I'm assuming that there's gonna be a slight increase for next year. And we also added on, if you see on the bottom, for the brine material and repair, that takes a different type of salt. It's called a solar salt. It's a cleaner salt. And I anticipate having more savings to the town next year with the brine machine.
I
The
noticed.
brine machine, in case nobody knows, it's 79% water, 23% salt. It's less than the rock salt we use. And the rock salt we use is at a bare minimum per mile. All the trucks are calibrated, and we're very conservative on the products. And I think we're gonna see a good savings in overtime on pre-treating with the brine, but just gotta remember that brining, you gotta always have the right conditions. You can't have wet roads. I mean, everything's gotta line up in order to use it. Unfortunately, we didn't get to use it much as we wanted to this year due to the fact that one of our trucks caught on fire at the beginning of the winter. Bob?
Noticed the first time they went out, took pictures, thank them, sent them in, Brian, great job.
Real quick, Bob, this is another budget area where there's a large lump sum disallowed there. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm not.
Because I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, that's a lot of the treated salt.
Yeah, we gotta think about snow and ice holistically.
So, yeah, we're slowly increasing it, but like I said, if we estimate 2,500 tons usage for a winter, each winter. So just at $100 a ton time, 20, you're already in deficit. You know, see what I'm saying? If we were to use that full amount of salt. This year, we didn't meet the 2,500, and as of right now, we're about 67,000 in deficit on snow and ice, which is huge from last year.
last year
So
was-
if you add the current deficit in my $148,000 snow and ice budget, we're right about 215. We've been discussing on meeting a sweet spot on my snow and ice budget, so I think anywhere from 175 to 200, because you don't want to overexpend, so you can't go into deficit, so.
So the sheet that,
Next page.
the next page, account history, gives you that holistic look of all those numbers together. Because what Bob just briefed is a $467,000 expense for snow and ice. And again, whether it's a good year or a bad year, snow wise, the holistic approach for the total amount is 165, which is over last year's 148.
Right.
And all the discussions of how much money needs to get transferred and otherwise, that's all seasonally dependent.
I also look at this with that holistic approach.
Yep.
We have, as was just highlighted, we're already into a deficit. But I think we also would need to factor in the additional expenses last year to get the Bryant equipment. And that has to be looked at and calculated. So I think our deficit is actually artificially low.
Yeah.
If we were to take just that 1 year and look at it in its whole, it wakes you up immediately.
I agree.
And I would like to note that I know that the snow and ice budget has been a point of contention year after year after year, and that we've just add $1, add $5 in order to keep us compliant. I appreciate.
Band-Aid's getting old.
It is, but I do appreciate the fact that the town administrator in his recommended budget has recommended 165, which is an actual significant increase to help try to start mitigating these deficits. So I would like to commend the town administrator on at least
Good job.
beginning the process of getting that number to something where it needs to be.
Any other questions, snow and ice? All right, we're moving on to Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Great job.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Promise this won't hurt.
He's fine. He has no blue.
Yep, he's fine.
You're now in the caring care.
Yeah. All right. The first page is the narrative. Does anybody have any questions?
None of the narrative. Candace Graves, Parks and Rec.
Candace Graves, Chair
just
of
want-
Parks and Rec,
I just wanted to say it. Sorry.
Chair of Parks and Rec Commission,
Commissioner Graves.
Commissioner. All right.
That's the way that chair, commissioner,
Yeah, Commissioner.
it's like Gotham.
Page 95, personnel.
Yep.
For Parks and Rec. So you'll see the stars. The stars indicate our revolving account. So that's based on all the fees from our leagues and our programs and our events. So that's from that account.
Okay.
So I'm not going to talk about those. The first part you'll see is the director for swim and the director instructor as well as the assistant. That has not changed this year. And then we go down to Parks and Rec administrative assistant. The assistant is working out really great. Our offices, we now have an office with all our records and everything in order. It is serving the public the way it's supposed to. That position, we're very grateful to have it. To have her along with us. The next one is a star, that's a concession stand. Then we have the seasonal laborer. We did not hire a seasonal laborer in the fall of this past year, but we are in the process of hiring one right now. So we will have a seasonal laborer. What happened was we discovered that the rate for the seasonal laborer that we put in for FY24 was way too low. So because we did not get one in the fall, we bumped up, the commissioners voted to bump up the rate, and now we have one in the process of being hired. So the rate does change for FY25 for that to accommodate for that increase. And then you'll see there's 2 seasons. It starts one of the seasons, for the spring, it starts in April and goes until June 30th. And then the fall starts in July and then continues to the closing of the parks and the end of October. You'll also see the playgroup coordinator. This is a new program. Well, it's not really new. It's an old program that the town had for many, many years. We did it like almost like a template of it once a week in the summer to see how it ran, or we had someone who volunteered their time so there wasn't an overhead to see if it was possible. It was possible and everybody loves it. So we put in for it so that we can get it going. The coordinator would be $1,000 stipend. The playgroup assistant would be $500 stipend. And then we anticipate to hire 5 of what we'll call counselors or juniors And they would be $375 for each stipend.
Candace, is that a week long, a day?
It would,
What-
so it'd be good conjunction with the swim program, so it'd be a couple hours in the morning. The area, children would come, do various sports, games, crafts. Like it was back in the day, we used to have it, at what used to be, the park at, Templeton Center. And then we also had it many years at Gilman Waite, so we're just bringing it back. We feel like there's a need for it. There's not a lot of, people that can go to fancy camps and have a lot of money, but it also, it gives, families a sense of, the kids a sense of coming together and playing and being creative together. So it'd be a couple of hours, like 3 or 4 days a week, for 5 weeks to mirror the Red Cross swimming program. So they go and play there, and then they would go up to, and do the swimming.
My recollection is, almost every park had a neighborhood playground.
We looked into what you call camps. Camps have a lot more guidelines, a lot more things you have to do, whereas the play group, it's a lot more.
Summer playground.
Yeah, and that we have the playground at Gilman Way.
Got involved.
Yeah.
The Colton, once that's all revamped, it might be a thing in the future to have that neighborhood in Otter River, and Gilman, Waite, and Baldwinville.
And that's the increase that's one of the significant increases on the personnel that we're asking for. The disallowed lump sum, the commissioners are fine with that. Our whole budget was gone through by the the Parks and Rec commissioners, and they voted on it. So this is all based on unanimous votes. The next page is our employee.
Question on that page before we move on?
Yep.
Sorry, good morning. So did you say that last year you had tried to hire seasonal laborers, but it didn't work out because the rate was too low?
Yes,
Had you budgeted for that in last year's budget?
yes.
What happens to the money that you budgeted if you didn't use it to hire the seasonal
The
laborers?
money was transferred over to accommodate for the sink that's being installed into the concession stand.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And we didn't have the funding for that, so it worked out. And it also helped to accommodate too for the increase for the spring for that position.
Just a quick follow-up, I guess. What was the work that you wanted the seasonal laborers to do that they couldn't get done because they didn't exist?
Okay, so the seasonal laborer would clean the bathrooms, so I was doing that for free as a commissioner. So hanging up signs in the park, which I did for free. Bob's crew picks up some of the stuff, and they will cut the lawns and stuff. So this seasonal laborer will take some of the pressure off the parks and the building and grounds. So they'll work in conjunction with they'll work in conjunction with Bob's. They do come in through the parks because we don't keep a dumpster because of security reasons at the park. But building grounds come through with the truck and they collect it, so they will help with that process. And then having somebody on the ground, notifying that the rubbish is overflow because of a big event. Swings they'll be painting the dugouts is one of the projects we plan on having our seasonal laborer do. Paint, repairing any minor things in swings that come up, loose benches in the dugouts. So having a person that basically a love of our parks and walking through and fixing the little things that they can fix, weed whacking, doing the softball fields where the tractor goes around and loosens that. And the town did purchase, Bob had said, a rototiller because some of it is really impacted. So he wants to have our laborer go and rototiller it and stuff. So there's a lot of work that the seasonal laborer will be doing. Is not just cutting the lawn, and it will take pressure off the building and grounds to have somebody that's just about the parks.
Great, thank you.
And we have one, we did hire.
Yes, we have one in the process of hiring right now. So they'll be in place come opening the anticipation in the budget for I think it's April 8th is when they start.
5,100. All right, let's move on to 5110.
Okay, employee support, not a lot. Let's see, this one, some things did change. One thing is, our recreation and park, we're a member of the Recreation and Park Association. It's a wonderful, association that we're in. We've learned a lot of things from them. In fact, we've gotten leads on some of the grants that the town has done through that, because they send us a lot of updates about grants and different things. We learn about how to take care of our new pickleball, a tennis court, and many other things. So it's a needed, I mean, it's worth its money, the membership. The safety shirts is for a laborer for the park, and the safety jackets. You'll see a star for where the movie is, that comes out of the revolving account. So, and then the licensing comes out again too, out of the revolving account. Something that was added to this budget this year from last year is the swim Red Cross training. So we pay for our Red Cross instructors to go through the programs. In the past, it was let's just say it was supposed to be added, and this year it's been corrected, so being added to it, we had to use funds from other to make it happen.
You need the membership fee to keep up with the certification.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's not just swimming, it's water safety, which has a lot more topics than front crawl, back crawl. It's, look before you leap, and teaching kids how to be safe in every area of water, ocean, lakes, streams around the house, whatever floods. It's a lot more than just
And then it also includes the cards that they get from passing each child that comes through the program that passes to the next level gets a Red Cross card that comes with a membership too. Yeah.
Any questions, 5110? All right, 5200?
This is the purchase of services, winterizing the Gilman Way building. We did it for the first time. That's the bathrooms and the concession stand. It went smoothly, and we'll be opening it up and unwinterizing it coming pretty soon. The lawn care is where we went up in. This will take care of the fertilization and seeds and presenting. Now that we have a laborer, this will be something that we will be able to do. We ran all the numbers and we realized that we didn't have enough to take care of it. It's a vast amount of space, and the cost of all the materials has gone up over the years. The $250 lump sum disallowed, we're fine, we can absorb that.
just for public knowledge, because you wanted to see who does the winterizing, it's the water department.
Yes, the water department, but we also have a plumber that comes in. We pay a plumber to come in, and they put antifreeze in the toilet lines. They shut all the water down. The water department does that part, and the plumber takes all the flushers off of all the toilets so that no one flushes it by accident. Just like the water heater, we're not allowed to turn or touch it until everything is up in line, because we could ruin it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. Any questions, 5200? All right, 5400?
Oh, I already flipped the page. Okay. This page is supplies. You'll see that we supply a UV shirt to our swimming instructors and the volunteer that we have that help the instructors, because without the volunteers, we feel it's very important to have this and any equipment. But we very much believe that it's very important for us to give them that protection from the sun, because they're out there all day in the water. The swim program, they love this part. They get $100 for their pizza party, and they really appreciate having that end of set, especially if we have volunteers. So it's a way for us to celebrate them. Everything else you'll see has a star for the soccer, the basketball, our softball, and our so that all comes out of and the reason why the play group you'll see has a star is because we have many of the equipments already. You know, it's just anticipation. Maybe we would need that much money, so we just put it in as a star. But most of the stuff, like the play group, will be using the softball equipment or the basketball equipment that we have. So we anticipate we have a lot of that for that program. Yeah.
Just to clarify too, volunteers allow more kids in the program because Red Cross has stringent rules. Instructors are allowed to have 10, certified instructors are allowed to teach 10. So if you have two, that's 20, but for every volunteer, they're only allowed to volunteer up to the level they're trained and you can have three extra kids. So it's an added layer of protection, extra eyes on and hands on little kids in the water.
Our supply, went up a little bit, because we're just learning, there's a lot more cost. So the supply budget will include paint for the parks, any materials that we would need, to fix something broken in the park, as well as, our administrator for papers and printing, ink and all that stuff. And the cost has gone up, so we increased it. The $250 disallowance, we are, fine to absorb that as well.
5,400.
Nope.
We're on the 57.
In this page, we weren't granted anything, though we want everything on it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Right answer.
Statement of the day.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was excellent.
Nice job. Good.
For those who don't know, it's the replacement of the fencing at Gilman Way and the various fields. It is desperately in need of it. And we are desperately in need also in some dugouts for the park. And this also includes Hooten Park as well.
We've been punched again.
All right. Any final questions for recreation? Candace, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think everyone's kind of seen, if you need to get up and do things, again, this is a workshop. We won't take any breaks in the interest of just trying to stick with the schedule. So if people need to use the bathroom and get coffee, that kind of thing, please go ahead and do that. I think the speakers understand that. We are running about 25 minutes behind schedule. Police is next.
Chief Bennett.
Sorry for the delay, chief.
Page 40.
I kind of anticipated it.
All right, so police and dispatch, the paper copy is page
It was that
47.
Wednesday.
If you're following along at home, or you're watching the recording, it is page 66 in the PDF for the election.
Mr. Chair, are we gonna jump right into 5100 first?
Yes,
Okay.
you have any?
Yeah,
It's
so-
your brief, so if you want to, however you want to go through it.
Okay, so as most of everybody knows, that on Wednesday night, the board graciously extended me a new contract, which gave me a salary increase, which Mr. Lamontagne added to 5,100 of our budget. However,
Page 50 goes.
Adam doesn't take care of this part of the budget when he does it. So when he added it to the budget, he added it to the place where he thought that it went into. So the calculation on the first part was wrong. I reached out to Adam on Thursday. We had a conversation. We agreed to address it this way so that it doesn't change anything. You will see that it starts on the left-hand side, the way it's supposed to. With my budget, you have the hourly rate, which slides across, which is times 52.6, which gives you the ending number of 112,290 and the 11,229. So what we decided to do so that they didn't change anything on the bottom is we added the approximate of $1,400 to the lump sum disallowed, which kept the number at the same at the bottom.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's the key for it. of
Yes.
course, is not even so much that as you're comfortable with the entire lump sum disallowed that's sitting at the bottom.
I've been doing this over 9 years now.
I know.
When it comes down to it, we discuss this, Adam and I discuss it. He looks at me, Chief, can you make it work? And I look at him and I go, I'll make it work. I've been doing it for over 9 years. So do we have any questions on 5,100?
No.
All the pay rates here are all by contract anyways.
Everything's by contract. There's nothing in there. And I keep the unforeseen overtime as low as I can.
Yep.
But you never know what's gonna happen.
Yep.
Seeing no further questions, 5110. Do we have any questions on 5110?
Actually, Chief, can I go back?
Yes.
So 5,100.
Yes.
Three major areas of our budget are manpower. No, they're not at 100% of what each department head meets.
Right.
DPW, police, and fire. So in the same spirit that, you know, you probably weren't here when Noel was talking about trying to get to that, there's a threshold that we meet every year, and you guys knock it out of the park. You're able to meet mission there. That's the threshold. The objective is how many people that you say you adequately need to be able to cover shifts, mission and otherwise. So
Yes.
we were talking about what's a good number for us to consider if we're starting to look at budget and we wind up having constructive, like we did it last year with recreation. We were able to glean enough money out where we were able to get that part-timer hours back. What figure should we be using if we are trying to find an additional officer?
So a realistic number for an additional officer or for staff, appropriate staff level? One officer is going to be about $100,000 to the
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
Appropriate
That's pretty-
staff
yeah, that's
level.
pretty-
Appropriate staff level. Now we're going to go back to Mr. Terenzini.
Yep.
Appropriate staffing level is 1.5 officers per 1,000 residents. So our staff should be around 12 or 13.
Over 13 officers, and right now you're at 1, 2,
10.
10. So you're too short,
Too short.
2-ish short, maybe.
Two is short, and just those two officers, and you know, I don't want to prolong this any longer than we have to, but
My
you look at there's two officers on duty. Those officers, anything they do, any minimal thing they do is an hour's worth of paperwork.
Yeah.
That's a minimal thing that they do.
Hmm.
If they have an OUI arrest, that officer is effectively off the road for the entire shift because of all the paperwork.
custody and
So if you,
supporting them.
if we're running a minimum manning of 2 officers a shift, and that's, a couple meetings ago, I was asked how many officers were on shift. We had 1. You're not getting anything else done.
Right.
There's nobody out
Big
there
incident.
just dedicated to answer calls and stop cars because they're tied up doing other things. You know, I hear the comment and I sit there and I have to chuckle because it's kind of humorous to me. They'll be like, hey, I see the cruisers parked at the station. Yeah, they're parked at the station because they have 8 hours of paperwork to do. They're not sitting there watching movies. So
Okay.
it's 12 to 13 officers to properly man the station.
And currently you have 10.
10.
And the figure you gave was from 5 years ago and things have changed, so we're
So
going by.
if you Googled
5
it,
years.
they'll tell you 1.5, and that was when Mr. Terenzini was here. If you Google it, they're recommending as high as 2.5 officers per 1,000, because now the move is to de-escalate everything. So if
Right.
you're moving to de-escalate everything, that officer is tied up even longer. So,
And is there a ratio of men and women on the force?
unfortunately, we try to hire
Mhm.
women. I don't go out of my way to try to hire. I hire the best person
Right.
available. We had a female officer that we attempted to hire, when we hired Noah Welch. She was our first choice. Loved her. Unfortunately, she failed the PT test twice.
Oh.
I give her all the credit in the world. She hired a
Was this your third shift?
Hmm?
Was this a third shift person you're referring to or no? Didn't you have a woman police officer on third shift?
we've
for a
had a
while?
few
That's what I
women,
thought.
but they've moved on.
They've
or,
moved on
um,
and, yeah.
you know, we tried to hire Cassidy and she didn't make it. I give
Point
her
of order.
credit.
We should not be talking about individuals by name.
Got it.
Oh,
no.
sorry.
Yeah, Mike corrected. me
Sorry,
too.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
Mike
sorry.
corrected me
Um,
too.
And she did hire, no name, she did hire a private trainer and was able to pass the academy. And now she works in West Brookfield.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yep, sorry.
All right.
52?
5110.
I mean, 5110?
Yep.
Basically, it's all contracts. Yes.
Is there any way we can address the chief's concerns this year in the budget and at least get him one more officer?
That's why I brought it up, so we can,
It's a goal.
yeah.
Okay.
It's looking for the opportunity.
It's another forum to address that, than.
No, no, we're receiving the report and like the point I was making when Noel brought it up. We're looking for those opportunities. So the town administrator gives us a budget and he says, I can do this. It's his budget recommendation and that's what we're doing right now, to try and look for those opportunities. When I say look for opportunities, if we decide that we don't want to fund something, now the department head's gonna say, wait a minute, that's, here's the impact of doing that. But that's why we're going through this drill to be able to say, there's an opportunity. I believe last year when we made the part-time person available for recreation is because we took an allocation for fire hose. It was something, it was fire hose or it was a uniform. We were able to say, let's not fund that this year. And we were able to move that money over. I know we're talking about 100,000, 200,000 to meet his things.
Yearly.
But that's really the point of what we're trying to do is to look for those opportunities.
I'm just trying to figure out where that action takes place.
Right, it could happen right
At
now,
any point.
right?
And it has to be sustainable.
That's the trick.
Yeah, usually by the end of the day, I think I'm collecting the notes right now, so as we go through every single line item, people can come up with ideas to say, what if we did that? That's the point of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's
I
a
think-
great, thank you. That's an excellent question.
I think it's
Chief.
important for us to hear everything first in order to be able to collect our thoughts and determine where we see things and then come to it at the end and say, okay, maybe we can do this, but we can't do anything until we've heard everything
And
first.
it may not even occur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Might
it may not
occur.
even occur in
But it may
this
not,
meeting.
yeah.
But it might.
Advisory, it might,
Might.
advisory may go back and
Might
say,
have
you know
a
what,
different-
here's a crazy, scenario, let's try to do this. All right,
Can I just ask a question? The chief is what is a target for the right size? I have in my mind 14, 15 officers. Is that?
I'd say comfortably 14.
Because I'm sure you always have somebody out on vacation or disability or, the nature of the.
Yes, and see, a lot of stuff, overtime is high because of the number, we don't have enough officers, so you always have to backfill. If we were running 3 officers per shift, then we could go down to a minimum manning, which is, okay, 1 officer calls out, you don't fill it.
Hmm.
You run with the 2, that decreases your overtime. But in order to get to that point, you have to have the number of officers available.
Right.
Like, because with post, they're basically doing away with all part-time officers. I've said it before. Ashburnham got rid of all their part-time officers and hired 2 new full-timers to take that place. It's something that's gonna have to get there.
approach, yeah.
I mean, we run 2 sergeants. A department our size, I should have 3 sergeants and a lieutenant. Ashburnham has it, Westminster has it, and they answer less calls and have more officers than we do.
And my follow-up question would be, we now have a grant writer.
Yes,
Are there grants that is a reasonable chance of the town securing, 4 police officers? I know there's been a model where, a grant for a police officer is funded for 2 or 3 years and then, then the town has to come up with the salary.
yeah, there absolutely is. The problem is, as we just discussed, sustainability.
Exactly.
Without economic development, which we all know, that's what's hindering this town. We need economic development to bring this town forward because we do not have the tax base to support what this community needs.
Could also be a legislative approach to say, police reform happened and you had some, whether they were intended or not, we are having negative effects with staffing levels. So if the legislature kind of a similar approach to saying, they call it the fair share tax to be able to pay for certain things. Now that we've got police reform and we're to the right of it, not to the left anymore. Be able to say the state needs to help. Has some, they have some culpability for the situation that we're in. So, I would like to be able to engage with Pete and John to be able to say what is being done at the state level.
Right.
To at least, whether it's, midterm goals, to be able to help out the communities, that it at least gives some kind of sustainability in the 5 to 10 year time frame, and then municipalities are going to have to work from there.
Just a separate, I guess, back to the item that we were discussing before, Chief, good morning. So between vacation, sick leave and personal backfill, just some quick math, about 216,000.
Yes.
And you had said that if you had more people on your staff, we could lower that number. Have you ever done any math out on that? Or do you know, if you had an extra person next week, would that number be adjusted lower?
I could work out the numbers. The problem is you're talking, it's not just one officer. In order to have the availability to have minimum manning, you would have to increase the entire staff size by 3, so that there's 3 officers per shift, so that if one calls out, you wouldn't fill it. So you're talking about a substantial increase to get to that point, but then you could realize the cost savings the following year.
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure. If let's say it's $100,000 an officer and you need 3, and that's 300,000. If we cancel out 200,000 of that number, we cancel out 50,000 of that number. I don't know what that number is, but if we can work that into the math, then maybe 3 officers doesn't cost $300,000. 3 officers cost $150,000 or something.
That is correct. Yeah.
So I'd like to know if we can work on that number.
I can look at doing something like that.
Best estimate.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's the kind of discussion. Yeah.
Okay, back to 5110. Do we have any questions? It's clothing. Yeah, it's pretty boilerplate. It's clothing allowance, it's training, it's dues, it's department cell phones. Okay, 5200. 5200 purchase services, basically everything there is to run the station. I know there was a question, there was a large increase, the bottom one, Axon agreement. That is because body cameras we are fully responsible for the cost of the body cameras. Before, we were operating under a grant from the state, and now we have taken that on ourselves. That's why there's such a large increase there.
Okay.
I will tell you that I was against body cameras my whole entire career, because obviously I was a patrol guy, I was a union guy, and it wasn't until afterwards with everything that's come out with post in the way that, and I'm not talking negative about it, how society is, these cameras are now actually a benefit for the officer, because an individual now cannot accuse an officer of being rude or inappropriate, because I have video evidence of how that officer treated him. And it's come in handy quite a few times.
Protect your people.
Yes, it absolutely protects them.
We just had an incident in town hall.
Point of order.
Point of order.
So
Be used in-
Other than the Axon agreement, do we have any other questions?
5,400.
Plain and simple boilerplate, office supplies, postage, ammunition, and taser cartridges. There is a slight increase there because the taser cartridges, taser has, it's a new taser.
They switched,
You
right?
you have to, yeah, now it's a double shooting taser. The thing is, it's scary. It's mean. It is.
So it hits you not once, but twice?
We can hit you twice.
Nice.
Not only
Oh my
can
God.
I can shoot Julie, but if Matt acts up, I can shoot him and at the same time, taser him.
Matt, and you still got it. Oh, my God.
So I gotta tell you, when I first heard it, the crack of that taser is scary. It's loud. It's intimidating. The problem is because of that, you have to qualify more on it. You have to use the actual cartridges. The cartridges cost money. So that's why there's an increase there.
Okay.
Do you have to have all new training for that as well, or no?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Every piece of new equipment we have to train on.
Train a whole new.
Practice on each other.
Nice.
Sorry.
Wow.
On each other.
I don't.
I can give you a list of, I
I'm
can
not
give you a
dumb.
list
Like,
of
somebody
volunteers
tells
you
me
can
not to
approach.
stick my finger in an outlet. I know it hurts. I don't need to get tased, so.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay, any questions?
Punched
All right.
already.
And then we're 5,700, which is the replace of the police vehicle, which is moved to capital.
Got it. Yep.
And I believe that's it, unless anyone has questions about anything else.
I think you're doing a great job, Chief. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Well done, chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
Great to see you.
All right. I was just making sure there's no questions.
No.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good morning.
Enjoy your
Have a
Saturday.
good day.
We
Go
have,
ride your
Rich
bike.
Curtis, yep, so. Police and emergency management,
MD.
so we're still a little bit behind, we did actually catch up
10
some
minutes.
time during,
Yeah.
the police department,
Chief,
so.
these are pretty standard.
I apologize,
Highways usually the hardest.
to fire, we've got Rich Curtis, Rich usually has, pretty smooth going thing. Rich, are you there? Rich, are you there?
He's on mute.
And if he doesn't come right back, we can always come back. Last,
Break.
last time, Rich. He might have gone to use the bathroom or something. Or, you know, like shoo a
Coffee on the lanai.
alligator away.
Coffee on the lanai.
Come on up, chief. All right, we're gonna skip over emergency management, just in the interest of time. He'll go right after. We're just gonna flip flop him. Good morning, chief. How are you?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
All
Chief
right,
Dickey.
for everyone, let's see, fire
55.
is page 55 in the paper, page 74 if you're following along with the packet at home. Since you can, however you want, if you want to jump right into 5,100, or if you have anything that you want to start out with.
We can jump right into 5,100. Anybody has any questions?
Yep, we're in 5,100, everyone.
Any questions on 5,100 payroll and?
Chief, following the police discussion and Andrew's question, do you think that we could take a look at like this, like smart manning, the same approach? Less money. Less money to find if we hired enough people, or does that not work for the fire and EMS?
I mean, it could work. I mean, I have to have a minimum of 2 on shift at all times, so
Okay.
that's the minimum to get the ambulance out the door. It's not even a minimum to get a fire truck out the door. So, we're, even just to get a fire truck out the door, when I have 2 people on shift, I still need people to either come back, my call personnel, part-time, full-time, anything like that. So, but 2 people on shift just to get the ambulance out the door. One of them should be a paramedic, because if it's not, then I have to back down to a basic EMT level with the truck and then bring another ambulance in from out of town to help with the paramedic at that point in time.
And thank you for mentioning that, because mutual aid, I know, is a big part of how we also I guess the vernacular, plug holes, plug holes in manning is, and we try not to rely on it, but it is a way that we were able to do, chief mission.
but we also, you know, we
do it too.
we do it as well. So it's something that works back and forth so that, you know, if we give help, we get help type idea.
Right.
But, you know, I'm lucky enough right now to be fully staffed. We're up to 6 full-timers and I have 6 on staff right now. Unfortunately, that last one that we just hired is a basic EMT in paramedic school. He won't graduate until January, so he has almost a year left to go. And that, and then after that, we get him his fire training. He's doing internal fire training, but I can't get him to the academy until after he's done his paramedic program. So that, even when I have him, when his partner is on what we call a Kelly day, where he's off, his partner is a paramedic. If I don't find another paramedic to work with him, then we drop down that day to BLS. And knock on wood, so far we haven't had many of those days, but and my full-time staff is fantastic too. The ones that live close enough, they come back out and try to fill those holes so that we can cover that ambulance, you know, when we're at that point. So and all that is overtime for, you know, them to come back in. We are at this point, we've been losing call firefighters as the whole industry has. It's just people, they're not looking to volunteer as much. They're just so busy at home to come in and have all the requirements they need to do to be an on-call firefighter. It's not as big as it used to be years ago. I'm in the process now. I actually have a fully trained firefighter paramedic that's looking to come on. Moved to town, lives in town and wants to come on, is on call. So we're working him through, and I got a couple of people that are not fully trained that are looking to come on, so that we'll have to train, but we're bringing some of those people back and that, you know, so.
Chief,
Questions?
yeah, Chief, do you have the PV waiver from the state?
We do. Yes.
So you're able to use BOS with the AOS to keep the AOS truck going?
Yep.
Okay. I saw the call volume too. Your call volume is only over 1,000 ambulance calls. Is
Yeah,
that,
but-
I mean, obviously that's been increasing over the course of the last few years.
So when I became chief in 2017, calls in general, we only did about 1,000 calls in general. That was both ambulance and fire.
Right.
We're up over 1,500 calls now.
Right.
In that 7 years, with just 1,000 of them being ambulance alone. Number increases every year. Doesn't really go down. It has slowed down a little bit, but it's still increasing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just would like to raise this as food for thought. It's a very significant number of police and fire calls go to one private drug and alcohol rehab facility in town. And if, you know, the chief could correct me, but I think the number is probably somewhere between 15% and 20% of our police and fire resources are going to that one facility. And I really think that we should, as a town, think about it's a private facility. It's very, very profitable. I think, in my opinion, it runs very minimal as far as existing regs, and the regs in this area it's kind of like the wild west. It's not really fully regulated by the state. And I really think that you know, they use a great deal of the services. They are not paying for those services, and we should try to find a way, either through the state legislature or some way, for that facility to pay some of those costs that the town incurs. I don't think it's fair. And I really think that we should look at that. That would also, if we could obtain money, you know, perhaps it could pay for another police officer or another firefighter. Just food for thought.
Well, so that, I mean, if it's the place I'm thinking of, they're actually not in town, they're in Winchton.
But you respond.
Correct, we are, so the police, Winchton Police actually covers that location, not Templeton Police. And we cover it for fire and ambulance because we are the closest service. We've covered that facility through multiple changes. My whole career, whatever that facility has been, we've always covered it. And when it changed to a drug and alcohol from a home for troubled kids, it didn't change because we are the closest responding unit, but that is.
But the point that I'm making is it's now a private drug and alcohol rehab. And it's highly profitable. It's really highly profitable. They could pay the town $200,000 a year. If there could be a way to be found, to assess a fee. And they could do that and not miss a beat. That's how profitable they are. They're really very profitable. And I think that that is something that we should raise with our state representatives. Because
So do they not pay anything when they have a request?
they
for
pay
service?
property taxes like anybody else.
To Winchton.
Yeah, to Winchton.
And we bill their insurance, so like when we do a ambulance response, we bill their insurance, so we are collecting and we do collect from them. It's not like we bill it and it doesn't get collected, so it does get collected.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know from the EMS side, we kind of are our own worst enemies. Because in the service plan agreements and what the state has given guidelines, there is a requirement to send the closest available ambulance in an emergency.
Correct.
They don't look at the geopolitical borders, they're looking at what's the physical distance, which just compounds the problem even more.
Correct.
And I would classify it in that term that I hate, the unfunded state mandate.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. It certainly is.
This is more just a,
Matt and Gail.
yeah, this is more just a clarification for the public as well, because I just looked it up. When you look at the salaries on page 58 in the paper, whatever page you said in the electronic, you'll see the request is 67,917 and lower for all the firefighters, paramedics, but those numbers are halved over on the administrator recommended side. The reason is because when you go back in the budget book, in chapter 7 under the ambulance, the other half of those salaries is funded under ambulance. So don't think that these people aren't being, aren't getting their full pay. It's just the way that it works out is that fire pays 50%, ambulance pays 50%, and those are two separate entities. So.
Great, thanks for the clarification. Gail, you had a question?
When we request insurance, refunds, does it include overhead and all that?
Chief, her question, when ambulance receipts, does it include overhead?
Can you clarify a little bit? I'm not sure what you mean.
It's a total price.
Total cost, including, not just your hourly wages, but overhead. And
Yes,
benefits.
so the ambulance portion of my budget does cover overhead items. It helps with, office supplies and everything else like that.
But it's not, I understand your question. It's not itemized in the bill to them. It just comes back as the service rendered, right?
Yes, correct.
Yep. Yes, Liz.
Sorry, just one other question, because we are the closest ambulance, right? And Winchton is benefiting from the tax revenue. Can't we have an agreement with Winchton that we get part of that tax revenue?
I think it's part of that, what
Discussion.
Lowell wants to look at for just some analysis. So, yeah. I certainly took it down as a note to be able to say, what do we need to consider? Okay.
Well, just be careful because municipal agreements are great, but the state is the one that directs the distance. And they're the ones that, like Tim said, they're unfunded.
The major.
That's correct.
Yeah, major facts.
Yep.
Any other questions on 5100?
No.
All right, let's move on to 5010. Any questions, 5110? All right, let's move on to 5200. Any questions, purchase of services? Okay, not hearing any, let's move to 5,400. Like Chief Bennett was saying, a lot of boilerplate stuff here. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll get your position, you're done. If you say you're not gonna get, somebody may.
Mike,
Thank you.
Mike,
All right, move on to 5,700.
We back up for just a moment.
Well, of course we can.
On 5,400, the very bottom line, the DEF, the 55-gallon drum. We're buying this in conjunction with DPW. I believe you're buying one, he's buying one. And that's servicing the
Yep.
fleet. Because I saw the same number, but I do remember a prior conversation where we were kind of sharing that expense and.
Yeah, we share that expense. The drum stays up at the highway barn, and we have, jugs that we go and get as needed, so forth, but we do split it so that we're not duplicating efforts.
That was my point, where it's
Yeah.
not really a duplication, even though on
No,
paper it
correct.
looks like a duplication.
Correct.
Thank you, Chief.
It's a 50/50.
5,700. Any questions, 5,700? I think Candace gets the quote of the day. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Need everything on, I forget exactly what
We
you said.
want
I
it
need
all.
everything on.
We want
here.
it all, but we know we can't.
Yeah.
Right, there are no questions on 5,700. I think that oh, yes, you have a question.
Yeah, just the safety on the bunker coat pants, firefighter equipment and your life. There's $30,000 in there. And there's none.
Are you talking about 5,400? No, where are you?
5,700.
Oh, okay. Bunker coats and pants.
it's capital.
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 My apologies.
I think that's where we earned it last year. Yeah.
Yep.
The fire chief presented.
Any final questions for fire before we move on to EMD?
Just on the final page, because he has a payment schedule here. I'm assuming this is your vehicles, your leases,
Fire engine,
fire engine lease.
that when John was chair.
Why is my name on here?
Because you just share it, signed it.
Fire truck, John.
I did buy a fire truck, didn't I?
It's paid off.
It's
Thank
paid off.
God.
This is basically saying that it's paid off at this point. Okay. Okay.
A long,
And that's-
long time ago.
I think you're all set.
You want to go over ambulance? or-
Ambulance, I'm sorry.
Halfway home.
That fire
jump-
truck now,
We're
what is it?
jumping.
Paid
to-
off.
Number 8, is it? Update with me.
No, that fire truck is 2019.
5 years old.
It's a tab 7. Ambulance is separated out on its own. Tab 7 of the book, if you have it on paper. I don't know what page it might be when you look at the thing, but. Yep.
Okay, took the picture of the TV. Okay, 5,100 for ambulance.
Like stated earlier, this is for the full timers. This is the other half of their pay. And also I have call positions in here as well. So when we get people coming back.
I'm just curious, do they sleep in Baldwinville overnight at the
Yep.
station?
They do.
With the kitchen and everything?
Yep.
Some things never change, huh?
Nope. Questions on?
Yep, let's move on to 5,110.
5110, you'll see the last item is a large one. It's paramedic and EMT initial training, 25,000. That is where we're having a hard time finding full-time people whenever I lose somebody. What departments have moved to is actually paying to train their paramedics, to send somebody to paramedic school. So this is kind of a placeholder in case I can't find somebody and we need to go down that route where we have to pay for paramedic training for somebody. We haven't had to yet. but-
Chief, if you were to do that, is there any guarantee that they would stay with the department after they complete their training?
So if we would have to do that, I would have an agreement signed with them. We already all have full-time people. We signed a 2-year agreement. The newest person I put on, we signed a 3-year agreement because I'm not paying for his paramedic, but he's going to paramedic classes even when he's on shift. So I went for an extra year, but if we had to actually pay for somebody's paramedic school, then we would look at a much longer of a contract to protect our investment.
Great. Makes sense.
For those following along, it's home page 211 in the PDF. Okay, 5110, were there any questions? Moving on to 5200, purchase of services.
This is probably the biggest section of our ambulance budget, where we do all of our software for our patient care software, scheduling software. We have to pay for, we have a third-party billing company, so they get a small percentage of every bill that's covered in here. Also, if those times that we're not at the paramedic level and we have to have another paramedic hop on with us, we have to share that bill with the other ambulance, so that portion comes out of this account as well.
If there are no questions on 5200, moving on to 54.
I have one. Sorry, no. All the training, all the CEUs that the paramedics are required to do every 2 years, that comes out of this budget as well?
So, yes, there's money in here to hire instructors. We have in-house instructors, but we also hire outside because sometimes it's just good to hear a different voice speak, and we can bring in people that are better on certain topics.
Okay.
And others, and there's also training platforms in there for online training and so forth.
Okay. And can you explain the striker, the stretcher, the 16,000, what, is that for the new one with the lift?
So that is a service agreement. The state, another one of those great non-funded state mandates, we have to have a service agreement on most things in that ambulance.
Right.
So, that 16,720 is, we pay that every year, and that is basically a warranty on all of our equipment. So, next week, the striker rep is coming out, and he is going to go through completely soup to nuts on both of our cardiac monitors, all of the defibs we have in the ambulance, the fire trucks, the defibs we have at town hall, in the police cars, and at like the senior center. They go through all of those. They cover, that also covers repairs to the unit. So about 3 years ago, one of our cardiac monitors had a pretty big malfunction. The repair alone, if we did not have this agreement, the repair alone that year would have been over $12,000 for that monitor.
Okay, or replacement, I would assume.
Or replacement, yes, but.
My only concern with this is, would there be any way maybe next year to put them both not together? Because the striker agreement, meaning that's the stretcher agreement, I would assume, correct?
No, Stryker bought Physio Control. That agreement is for.
Just for the monitors?
No, that agreement is for both cardiac monitors, all the defibs. It's for the stretchers, it's for the load system of the stretchers, it's for the stair chairs. It's anything that we have by that company is under the service agreement.
So my only other question, so if there's a catastrophic malfunction, say with the stretcher being loaded and it falls off, not that it can, but I'm just saying if it does Stryker take some of that responsibility? Or does that all fall on the town's insurance?
That I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Years ago, when I was managing an ambulance service for the Bay State Medical System, our agreement, and I don't know if this still holds true, it didn't matter if I had them out the once or twice a year to do the inspections and the PMs, or if I had to call them weekly.
Correct.
That number stuck. And it was just, they either had a good year or they had a bad year, but at the end of the day, my equipment was up to par.
Yes.
Does that still hold true?
That definitely holds true. I've had, so over the course of the last year, the new disinfecting chemicals they have because of COVID, are harsher on our equipment than they ever were. And, I've had to have, for the stretchers alone, I've had to have them out, not the stretchers, the load systems, out, 2 or 3 times in the last year or two, because it's degrading the plastic, nothing structurally, but some of the plastic pieces and everything, and then coming out and replacing them. And Stryker is very good. I make a phone call and he is either out here that day or the next day.
Excellent.
That's what I was familiar with, and I'm going back a decade when I was doing it. It's good to hear the service has remained the same, if not improved.
Stryker Physio, well, just Stryker now, their service is fantastic. I call or email, I get a phone call back within minutes. Their service rep, you know, the rep that's coming out next week to service, all of the Life Pack units, he'll beat me to the office next Friday. He says he'll be here at 7. He's usually there at 7:45.
Okay.
He's coming from Boston.
Well,
Wow,
well, if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
impressive,
You're on time. You put me to the job memo.
impressive.
Any other questions? 5,200. Right, 5,400. Any questions? 5,400.
Do we still have a contract with Haywood as far as medication swapping, or we don't do that anymore?
No swapping, no, they don't do swapping, but we have a contract with them, for purchasing through the pharmacy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about? Pause. That's it. All right, that completes it. Services.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
We're doing pretty well for time. We were about 30 minutes behind. We are actually, depending on how emergency services go, we may earn it back. I think you were scheduled for 10:45 and you needed to jump in. Got it. Rich, there you are.
Hey, he's at the shuffleboard.
Ow.
Page
Oh, he's
64 in our book.
Emergency,
He's running, he's running.
emergency management. is
He's
page
laughing at
64.
He's laughing at
Laughing at me.
Listen, you guys.
Emergency management paper copy 64, PDF 83. And Rich, whenever you're ready, you can start out however you wish, but we're ready to go.
Hello,
Good morning.
how you doing? Okay, where would you like to begin?
I offer it to you. You can open it up however you want, or you can jump right into your 5,100.
Actually, why don't we just jump right in?
All right,
Sounds.
we're looking at your 5,100. I say that to everybody. I'm looking at your 5,100.
Okay. The changes on the 5,100 this year, we're looking to get stipends this year. $500 from myself and $250 for any applicable deputy EMDs. Now, I know Peter Layton is technically an employee of the fire department, so I understand he is not eligible for a stipend. And is there a possibility that Mike Dixon has become an employee of recreation?
Coming up.
What's that?
Not current.
coming up, he's applied.
Isn't he cutting the grass?
Yeah. Gilman.
Yeah, he's like, that's what Forrest Gump did. He cut the grass.
But he did it for free.
He did do it for free.
Is that a problem?
If, that would be, he's getting paid by the town.
That too, yeah.
The point is, if they're an
Withdraw it.
employee, they're not gonna get the stipend
Stipend.
as.
Again, I'm not clear that he's been hired yet, correct? So why is this
Cause
It's-
I mean,
it's
he
more of a
put in an
structural thing to
application.
say
It's just a
if they're on here-
structural
yeah,
thing, right?
exactly.
Bottom line, if he is hired, then the 250 wouldn't apply in that
Excellent.
case.
well,
Yeah.
could it go to Dawn? I mean.
Well,
technically-
Dawn is scheduled on there
Don's
and
on
I'm
there.
scheduled on there.
Excellent.
So it would all depend on whether or not, whether Mike gets it or not, whether or not he becomes an employee of the town, so. But anyway, we're requesting this. It's a lot less than our neighboring town of Phillipston makes. They do, I believe it's somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 for a stipend in the little town of Phillipston. But I figured we'd start someplace here and just see what we could do to get us back with a stipend again. So that's why that's on there. So it's, right now it's for $1,000, whether or not it stays that way and it goes down to $750, that's yet to be seen.
Budgeted for 1,000.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any question 5,100? Makes sense to me.
Me too.
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 5,110.
Okay, 5110. For training, we have animal shelter training. We've been trying to do this since before COVID. I understand they're going crazy with it right now, so there's a good chance I could get this in this year. So that's very hopeful. And that was our agreed upon price, was $500 for that. And that's pretty much the only training we have that's costly right now.
Questions 5,110. Moving on 5,400.
Okay, and then 5,400, a lot of the usuals, pallet of bottled water, office equipment, meaning paper supplies, mostly ink, folders occasionally and stuff like that. Miscellaneous, not so much hardware, lumber anymore, but hardware and batteries are a constant need of being replaced. So that's why that's on there. Occasionally we do need some wood to repair something. But most of those things have been taken care of now. So it's mostly just the batteries, the hardware and whatnot. And this year I added on EMD apparel because more and more and more we're getting out into the public. And I really think that all of us should have something that shows that we are from the town and not just showing up in our t-shirts or whatever. So, and that's the extent of the whole budget. So that's $1,250 on that one page.
Just one quick question, Rich.
Yep.
The bottled water, how does that align with our governor with one of her first actions going down to New York and signing into the legislation and agreeing where they're eliminating municipalities from purchasing bottled water because of the plastics and recycling? That is unfortunately behind us and it is in effect.
Well, it's going to be kind of hard to do because we purchased the water for the firefighters and for CERT, emergency management, actually anybody. I've been known to even drive around town with a cooler in the back seat and stop and give bottled water to the police officers while they're on details when it's super hot out. If we don't have bottled water, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. In the past, we have had issues with water mains, especially in Balderville. A few years ago, we had like 10 water main breaks in one day. Bottled water comes in quite handy when people need to have some water. We had many families. I had to borrow water from Fitchburg at that time. And we were handing out water at the EOC. So I don't know how we're going to get around using bottled water conveniently.
There's got to be exceptions for
There
emergency
actually-
management.
There actually is an exception. I think you have to buy it by a certain ounce. like you're gonna have to buy either bigger than this or smaller.
I just.
At the state level, it was cleared,
I'm sorry, I cut you.
like a bigger, like instead of
Smaller.
whatever
ones, I
this,
think, for weight.
this is what, 12 or 16?
Half that.
They want you to buy a gallon jug and you're gonna get cleared under the new process.
I just, from a emergency management, FEMA perspective, I cannot see not reacting to a disaster or otherwise. And saying, wait a minute, you didn't get the right size bottle of water.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree, and I laud Rich
But
for
it's a
the
good
effort
question,
here.
yeah.
It is a good question,
They
and
did
this,
shut us
this
down,
again
yeah.
falls under those silly unfunded mandates, or in this case, an unrealistic restriction.
Yeah.
In my mind,
Yeah.
but
But it-
who am I?
It's also a
Rich, could you take that
conundrum.
as just a research question?
It's also, if I
It just, yeah, of course.
It's also a conundrum because they extracted the nanoparticles from one bottle of water like that,
Mhm.
and they spun them out, and it was a piece of plastic almost the size of a quarter. So when you're drinking that, you're getting PFAS of plastic actually the size of a quarter. So it's more than just recycling. There's potential. We all have plastic in us. It's a fact. I'm trying not to be an extremist, an alarmist, but it's a fact that we all have plastic in us. It's how to minimize that going forward. And I can send anybody the actual scientific finding the process when they extracted the nanoparticles from the water and spun them out and showed the piece of plastic.
What's your EMV apparel? Are you trying to develop a uniform for your staff?
Well, it just more so a shirt or a light jacket, like a rain jacket type thing, because most of the time, we're not gonna go buy heavy coats at this time, that's crazy. But a shirt and maybe 2 shirts per person and a light jacket, rain jacket.
My suggestion, I mean, obviously for food for thought is to write some type of, your own policy on uniform. And that would definitely help with the select board understanding what you're trying to do.
Okay. I mean, I've got a shirt right now that I use, that we purchased. Well, it was through the DPW's vendor, Cintas or something like that.
Yeah.
And I wear that shirt. It looks pretty much like what Bob Sosik wears. And that's all I'm looking to get, so. It's nothing special. In fact, I'm not even looking really to put the names on the shirt, just the like deputy EMD or EMD Templeton, and that's it.
I got it. Thank you.
Any other questions on 5400?
No, but I'm in favor of it because it does command a little bit of respect in the community.
Yep, well, the TA agrees. There's no lump sum disallowed. Yep, I did see that, Gail.
I have clarification on the single use. Says when no alternative is available or practical. And when necessary to protect health, safety, and welfare,
Bingo.
and when compliance.
Hi there.
Rich, did you hear what Gail said?
No, I couldn't hear that.
She said there is an exception. She's reading from it. We'll find it, but I assumed there was. All right, any other questions? 5400. I think that does it for emergency management.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, thank you.
You're doing a great job.
You there?
All right, thanks.
Yeah. And we're doing pretty well. We're only 5 minutes behind now. So that's good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and refer to the schedule, 10:45 Development Services, Clerk. Carol, you wanted to jump in? Okay. Yep, we're just gonna take Clerk out of order. She's got a conflicting schedule today.
How dare she?
Let's see.
Sorry, Carol.
Town Clerk.
Morning, everyone.
Page 40
Morning.
and page 59 in the electronic. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Again, however, if you want, we've got your opening page right here describing if you had anything to say. Other than that, you can jump right in.
We go right through.
You got it.
100.
Okay.
So on this page, the increases are for pay raises for myself, the assistant, and our poll workers are getting a raise this year.
To account for the pay raises.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Carol could be kind of humble. I just want to congratulate her for becoming a justice of the peace.
Oh, congratulations.
Well done.
All right.
So there's a discrepancy down the bottom, but I don't see a lump sum disallowed. Was that
Oh, yeah, there was 4,000 missing there.
left out?
Hold on.
It says 126, 375 total, and then 122, 650.
That was what I requested, and then we agreed on the one.
So the lump
22.
sum disallowed's missing in it, is that what I'm-
Carol's elected, if I can, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Carol's elected, so her salary is a little bit different than everybody else's because it goes on the warrant, kind of like the select boards, because you're elected. So Carol and I came up with that number.
The 77,515. And
Correct.
that accounts for the change at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
that makes sense.
okay.
Yeah, you requested 8951, 77,515 is what you came up with.
Yeah.
That's the balance. Okay,
Because her salary goes on the warrant.
right.
so.
It has to be approved by the town. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? 5,100. Right, we're moving on to 5,110.
5110, we have just a slight increase, and that is due to the cost of the association dues and the meetings. Increased a little bit.
Any questions? 5,110. Mileage, we're using state, federal. I just, not a question for you,
Right.
but just a quick clarification. When we see mileage, did your department heads use the federal? I think it's like
State.
55 cents. State, gotcha, okay. Any questions? 5,110. All right, we're on 5,200.
On each page, increase is, the cost of maintenance agreements has gone up, and the voting machine, the coding of the voting machines, cost has gone up on that also.
Any questions for Carol on 5,200?
What are you serving your poll workers for food? I'm kidding, Carol.
And Julie's available.
She's got plenty of volunteers.
All right. One question to do make note here is that you do have food for poll workers 3 times $500 each. That's because you're anticipating 3 elections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which would be
State primary.
state primary, federal, or the federal in November, and the town. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I do have a question. It's on the Gardner News advertisement. I'm assuming that's required.
It is.
Yeah.
It just seems with digital media that
There's gotta be, that's a state law somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
Time
Yeah.
to revisit
That's
that.
the state mandating that, not us.
well, it should be changed.
Yeah, I agree.
I know MMA is.
Not
working
arguing
on
with you.
that. I can't remember off the top of my head what direction they're going in, but that is one of their, at their annual meeting every year that that the towns vote on what their priorities are. That is actually one of them. They're taking a look at, declining subscriptions, getting, the town has to, by law, have that information out there. So they are trying to address that.
Town website would be a great spot.
I just think we want to be careful because, I mean, yes, absolutely. Print media is declining and we know that. And online media is obviously becoming much more prevalent, but we do have people who will not move to online media. And so we just need to be careful with the balance on that. Okay. Because there will be some people who will, newspapers are gonna be the way they're gonna go. And that's just because it's the way they've always done it. So we just want to just a word of caution there. I get that the mandate from the state probably should be relieved, But we just want to be careful with, we want to be, in the future, we'd want to be careful with that. That's all.
And the advisory committee did do that. We actually, with the people vote,
Mhm.
changed the bylaw
Yep.
to take that piece out. So we advertise it, but we advertise it on a
Right.
website, which
Yep.
still meets the requirements.
That's good to know.
Go ahead, Gil.
In June of 23, they urged the judiciary committee to support bills that would allow legal notices in online only newspapers. But that's all, it hasn't moved.
Yeah, it's proposed.
Yep. Still gonna sit there.
We studied for years.
Scheduled to be implemented in 2046 or something along those lines.
Any other questions? 5,200. All right, moving on to 5,400.
And a slight increase on this page, and that's due mainly to the cost of postage. Rising.
Yeah.
On cost of postage, like the dog notices that we got, went to a lot of non-dog owners too. Not that would cut postage, but.
You talking sense?
That actually went in the census, so we still had to pay the same amount, so we just had to put it into everybody's.
And that's how I get my stuff for free.
Right.
Ah.
And any questions, 5,400, or any last questions for town clerk? Carol, I think we're all set.
Thank you, Carol, as always.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you to
Development
Cheryl, too.
Services.
Okay, folks, we are up to development services. We got.
Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
That's
We are on page 69 and digital copy of 88.
And I am okay with just jumping in unless anybody has questions with regard to the first few pages.
Everyone good to jump into 5,100?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it.
Off to the races.
So other than increases in salary, there really isn't any changes to 5,100. My part-time administrator, Jess, who is also our conservation agent, also serves CPC. So part of her pay comes from CPC.
Mhm.
Yes.
So the 28,000 requested versus the 20,000? Administrator recommended, is that the difference that goes over the CPC? Yes.
Same
Because I
thing.
miscalculated the first time around, he caught it and put it in
Same,
there.
same as happened with like fire and ambulance is that the rest of that number will be picked up by CPC.
Just wanted to make sure it was there, she wasn't losing it.
Thank you.
And is that a typo at the bottom, lump sum allowed is everyone's dollars? He's giving her 81.
Rounding up. Giving her 81, that's up.
That is unusual.
Yeah, that's plus, not minus.
Any questions, 5,100? Hearing none, moving on to 5,110.
The biggest change here is, this past year, we received grant money to be able to do the online permitting. And so we've got 3 years of payment for that. But what we don't have is the support money for the tablets that the inspectors will need. They'll be able to log their inspections on site, which everybody will be able to see. So we did put in for $2,000 for tablets. And the lump sum disallowed will probably come from that. We'll probably do 3 tablets instead of 4.
Does that go with your new software package?
Yeah.
you just got?
And you're comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay.
Any questions, 5,110 for Lauren? Going on to 5,200.
So purchase of services, there really isn't a lot of changes there. Sealers of weights and measures did go up last year. And we did get our first bill this year, and it was the $3,500, which we do eventually, when we get that bill, we go through it, we divide it up between the inspections of the commercial businesses that are subject to them, and they get billed for it, goes to the general fund.
Okay.
Just a curious question.
Yep.
Does Bob have a pest control budget too? Cause I know he's removed beavers from Depot Pond and all the other, so is that?
So
Will you pay that or how do?
he and I work in conjunction. My pest control is more for things that don't affect Bob's department. But if I do have the funds and he's in need, we do work together. And it usually gets spent.
Question.
I guess I'd like to raise the same thing as with the town clerk. You have $9,200 for, looks like paper print advertising, which I'm sure is required by law.
Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna expand on that a little more because the less people that subscribe to like the Gardner News, which is where we're required to advertise, their prices go up. Something that was $67 2 years ago is now $300 for advertising. It's really bad. And it's hard to imagine how many you're gonna need. A couple of years ago, we had to use it all the time because zoning board, planning board, and Board of Health had so many cases that it drove it up. As far as the other cost, postage, it's a lot of certified mail that's required.
And I hate to even ask this, but you've got listed here 20 for each of those at $230 a hit. And are you satisfied that that's enough?
I believe it is. I hate to even say these words out loud. We have slowed down a little bit in building.
Okay.
It's still happening.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
hard to predict.
Sure.
Yes.
You feel comfortable with 20?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, that's.
For 5,200. Let's move to 5,400.
Not a lot of change there.
No.
We go through a lot of paper and I find that unfortunate.
Did you plan for postage increase in here or?
I did.
Okay, I figured.
Is, you may, you go through paper because you have to.
Because we have to. Everything that I can email, I do.
Yeah.
Like new applications and things like that. Most of the time, food and all our other permitting, we email.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you? Software wise. You got, really technical question. Do you have the full version of Adobe? Like you're, just in terms of flexibility to be able to. Having a full version of Adobe allows you to be able to like create forms, send for signature, those sorts of things. And I just,
It's also
since we're talking about it, and you try to do as much digital as you can.
So I don't think we do.
Yeah.
Because anytime I need something like that, I go to Holly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those licenses are not cheap. They're, yeah.
So
Adobe doesn't hand them out.
I can do brochures though.
Can I do a small sidebar, Mr. Chair? When I give the update on the highway department software package that we purchased for $36,000, the owner of that company took a look at Templeton's software and he saw ways we could save money by engaging his one firm with multiple, but she just took a grant out, so we can't save money now because she just took a grant out. But a vision for the future would be to have this gentleman either present or he can give me some notes to specifically show us how we can bundle one software company with multiple compartments for every department and save. And one of the savings he pointed out was she's paying for the cloud. Justice's office doesn't have the cloud. Bob has the cloud. So this particular office is charging one price for the cloud of like $550. I'm just throwing that out off the top of my head, but it's low. If Justice's current software package, if he were to access the cloud, it would be $950. And that's all throughout the
I
town.
fully support
So
that.
I'll try to get as much information as I can. It won't happen overnight. She's got a 3-year contract. Justice has a
We've
contract.
set precedent for that before. Every time we go to a trade show, we see different services that are out there, and we're not gonna know unless we know. It's, I know it wound up becoming a failed experiment, but that's how we did ClearGov for a year.
Yeah.
Is they came in, was, trying to improve efficiencies or otherwise,
Mm.
but absolutely, I support that.
So I have a more basic question then. Do you guys at least double print on both sides of the paper if paper's a concern? Okay.
As much as possible.
That's a great question.
You don't have a legal line item? There's no attorney line item? No. That fall under. Okay, got it.
Take Adams.
I got you now.
You're such a giving man.
That's a really good question.
Because she has did,
As we talk about different sharing across the departments, maybe that could be like a tie a string around your finger for.
And I need
Because
a
that
lot
will-
of coaching, because I have no idea what cost or anything is.
that will show what cost and what utilization is over the course of the time as well. So, you know, because I know there's a lot of attorney fees and court fees and things that they have to do and go through, which does come out of the Select Board Adams office, but it's just something that we should be able to, that should be able to broken down to what department used what for the people to see.
And
That's
that
all.
could be. Oh, sorry.
It falls under our budget because town council, like,
Yep.
is appointed by the select boards, like how I'm appointed by the select
Mhm.
board. So we have that under our office. So Lori will certainly, when she needs resources, legal resources, we'll work together and to accomplish like Central Street, some of these other
Right.
issues that the building commissioner works on. So that's why it falls under our office, because town council is appointed by the select board.
Understood.
Yes.
Just like in other parts of the budget where things were shared, you had part of it in one budget and part of it in another budget. I think to John's point, it should show what her department's utilization
I
is.
think it's something we can get through, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions for Lori, 5,400?
Well, I prepared. I know how much money we used last year. for our budget. Did that homework for nothing.
You're the best.
Well said, Lori.
Right.
Okay.
Nice job.
Nice job, Lori.
For Lori,
Good to
that
see you.
includes
you.
welfare services.
You get to go out in the sun.
And guess what? We're 5 minutes ahead.
Hey.
And if you run out of coffee, I made you a pot in there and it's the Jamaican.
Oh,
coffee.
excellent.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Drink Ethiopian around.
In my drawer, I have mushroom coffee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my Lord.
All right.
Thank you,
folks.
Lori.
Um,
Sewer.
next we have, I see Jeff. 11:15 for sewer.
Good morning.
You don't mind going 5 minutes early, do you?
I would rather have been earlier, but that's okay.
Yes, 6.
Right, we are at tab 6. And let's see. You give me 2 seconds, Jeff. I just want to see where we are in the actual document.
Sure.
Of course, right?
Had to pick a common word, didn't you?
I know.
No. There you
There we go. Page 199
go, on the electronic.
on the electronic. Does anyone have any question? Jeff, if you want to start, if you had any presentations or anything you wanted to say first, or
We could probably go right to 5100.
sounds good.
I appreciate you being able to do it Zoom. I'm by the ocean, just not down in Florida. Where it's colder.
All right, sewer 5100.
Basically, it's just all the wages and increases. Pretty cut and dry.
The only question I would have is, the OT's at what, $50,000? Is that gonna be enough to cover a catastrophic failure?
Yeah, normally we're pretty well with that. Usually we don't even go over on our salaries.
Okay,
And
thanks.
knock on wood, there won't be any of them, so don't say that. You might have jinxed me.
Stop it now.
Any questions for Jeff? 5100. Move on to 5110, employee support.
Yeah, this is just our license hours, the uniforms, union dues, and mileage if we have any, which
Jeff, do you have any professional events or conferences that you go to?
they have them. Like there's one coming up at Mount Wachusett coming up. I give them the options to go. A lot of times we don't. We do most of our training online.
Okay.
It's easier. I can't empty the whole plant out to go places because I need to have at least one person in. If I have a problem, then I so we do a lot of it online. We don't really, certain things guys will want to take a certain class and we'll send them to it or whatever. But for the most part, they're all doing things through the internet.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? 5110. All right, we're on 5200.
Pretty much everything's nothing's really changed on this.
So the Gardner treatment costs, that goes to for East Templeton over to Gardner sludge.
Yes, not sludge. All of East Templeton sewer.
On Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do see right here on cost for office contracts. I believe that's
Typo.
20,000, not 200.
Yeah, that's a typo.
I just
That's
happened to see that.
$200,000.
Oh, I got
That's a typo.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Any questions? 5200.
No, no.
We're on to 5400.
You know what?
This is-
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I actually just, for some reason, it just popped into my head. My apologies, Jeff.
Yep.
So say, it's a few years down the line, but is there gonna be how do you forecast if the sludge landfill doesn't go through in Gardner, would that impact East Templeton is the big question that people are wondering about, and I'm wondering about. Whatever happens in Gardner, are you gonna have to forecast what's gonna go on in East Templeton, or will they let you know once they make their decision?
The only way it would impact us is our agreement with them is so many thousand gallons a day, which we're well under. And we pay, if we use 2% of the plant, we pay 2% of their upgrade costs. So if they had to put in an incinerator, let's say, we pay 2% of the cost of doing that.
Would it, so
So right now, we're paying them $50,000 a year, I think for 6 years for their last upgrade. We owed them like 300,000. So Bob McDonald had made up a payment plan and we give them 50 grand a year till it's paid. But that was our percentage of what it cost. You know, every year we pay our percentage. If we're 2% of the flow, we pay 2% of their operating costs. And the
Plus,
same thing goes with upgrades.
plus the bill, plus Bob McDonald established bill? Or is that the same thing, one and the
Now,
same?
50,000 is part of the 2% of the, or whatever percentage of the upgrade. I won't say 2%. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay,
Their last upgrade was 300 something thousand. We pay 50,000 a year for like 6 years. So
And-
if our flow goes up in East Templeton, then we pay them a higher percentage. If it comes down, we meter the flow at our pump station in East Templeton.
and I know we have plenty of room, but what with watching planning board and zoning board and the changes that may take place, they're minor changes on Crowdy Ave, but they're still potential changes.
At Crowdy Ave.
Yeah, not Crowdy Ave, my apologies on, what is it, Crowdy Lane? There's a 50-unit small.
Yeah, we got plenty of volume for that if they do go in.
So I know that, but it just might impact the gardener.
Yeah, well, I mean, our agreement is so many gallons a day, as long as we're within that.
And you're below that, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Consistently below that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, what they generate for sludge is within their process.
Thanks.
5,400.
This is all basically the same. Nothing's really changed here either.
Is heating oil for, just their building?
Jeff,
What's
did you
that?
hear that? Is heating oil just for for your facility over on, out in, East Templeton? Or are there both?
The treatment plant and Plant Road Pump Station. I believe that's it.
You know what the cost per gallon is you're using to calculate that is?
Whatever the town's,
Okay,
we're off the same bid the rest of town is.
okay, all right.
And how many buildings just because there's more than one building?
Three.
there.
One, the main building at the treatment plant and then the pump station over in Plant Road, one building there.
If I take the 20,000 divided by the roughly $3.59, it's like 5,500 gallons.
We use quite a bit of oil at the treatment plant. We got a garage that's got a 40-foot ceiling.
Yeah.
It's
Hard to heat.
with fans to blow it down. It's
Sure.
three garage doors. They're opening and closing when we do sludge. So it's a lot of heat in there.
And I'm gonna, just one question for you, Jeff, as well.
Sure.
100,000 for chemicals, and I know that this is one of the costs that's gone up over the course of the last couple of years.
Yep.
You're comfortable with that, I assume?
Yeah. It's hard to come up with a firm number because the treatment plant is a life of her own.
Right.
Depending on what Mother Nature throws at us, depend what our, let's say, phosphorus numbers are. If they come up, we could add more chemical. If they go down, we can cut back.
Yep.
A lot of times it can be consistent during the steady months of summer, but fall and spring things change with the temperature change. A lot of rain changes things. It depends.
Yep.
Really, but yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
And then polymers with the press, depending on how much we do water. Sometimes the sludge wants more polymer. Sometimes she's more agreeable and takes less.
Yep.
She's the nature of it's her own beast.
Yep.
She kind of dictates to me what she uses.
Any other questions? 5,400. Let's move on to 5,600. Intergovernmental. These are pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
Again, that is it for sewer. Any final questions for Jeff? You have one?
I was just gonna say, if we have extra time, you want me to do the select board?
Jeff, I think we're all set. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
No problem. Thank you very much for letting me do it Zoom.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure as always.
Enjoy your
You
time.
too, thank you.
John had asked me to, because he might have a conflict later this afternoon. He was looking for advisory too.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
right.
we went from being behind to way ahead.
Okay, let's see, sewer done. It is
10:20 or 11:25-ish.
Let's, I know John wanted to do advisory. He just stepped out.
Stepped out for a phone call.
Yeah.
Big select.
I go to page 1.
Yeah, let's,
Be up here.
so opportunity wise, we want to do advisory now,
Sure, why not?
if you're prepared. And then,
I would.
Adam suggested which would be select board as well. Before we start for lunch, noon.
Advisors, what tab?
Page 11.
Page 11.
Tab 3, page 11.
And that's page 30, if you're following along. That's all.
That's the, this is just page 5.
Do you want me to go up there, Mr. Chair? Or can I do it right from here? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll go right into 51. I'm sorry, we're 5110.
Yep.
So it's again boilerplate, the annual meeting, the dues, mileage and transportation mileage, and the MMA meeting that we have scheduled. So everything's pretty standard. So 1740 was the recommendation.
For the MMA, how many people does that represent you sending to the MMA?
2.
Okay.
2.
Feel that's enough?
No, but I mean, we take what we could do.
I'm not trying to be a jerk. How many did you send this for this past year?
None this year.
All right. If you don't send people. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you donate it to us? Is
I,
that where you're
again,
going
I
with
could
it?
take that to the, I could take that to the committee, and that would obviously be a committee vote of transferring the funds, but, I mean, me personally, as I have no issue with that. If we're not going to utilize the funds and you have other staff that want to go, I don't think any of the committee members would potentially have a problem,
Yeah.
but again,
No, I would not object.
I mean, would you,
I would be okay with that.
yeah,
So MMA is not only for whatever they've got going on, there's a lot of classes that they go through.
Mhm.
That trade show. Whether it was advisory, select board, there are so many different things at that trade
Yep.
show that it touches every aspect of the town. So I'd love to be, if we're gonna budget it. And it's low dollars as well. As long as we've got a good plan, usually they announce it near the end of the year, if by Christmas time. Or Thanksgiving time, if we know who's gonna go, we can effectively manage those slots. So I think that's a good discussion in terms of.
Mhm.
If we don't have a full slate of whoever is budgeted for that MMA meeting, for what they do, we gotta take full advantage of it.
right. And I
Agreed.
think planning better next year, because again, I was off my game a little bit, so I didn't realize the date that was coming up in January. So I mean, by the time I realized, I was already booked, so I wasn't able to understand with the other staff. So
I didn't even think of it, so.
yeah, I think we start talking about that like in October, November timeframe and start planning something collectively. And I think we should all be able to be on the same page.
Sounds great. And I'd love to have everybody who's budgeted to go.
No, believe me, I wanted to go this year. If
The other thing
I,
we can, the other thing we can do there too is like, I mean, if we can like combine hotel rooms if necessary, if people are comfortable with that and that sort of thing too.
I didn't say that, but I mean.
On that note, Mr. Chair, there's also things that I like to attend throughout the year. There's something coming up for $45 in Northampton that I'd like to go to. There's the WeMo, women municipal officials. So they're all little small potatoes compared to
Yeah,
that.
we can talk when we go through the select board.
Well, I think you should be able to handle it during your select board meetings,
And then that would also be under employee support as well.
potentially. I mean,
So there's a
the
couple
util-
budgets you can play with for the small.
right, the utilization of dollars is within the confines of that budget. I mean, you can shift around a little bit. Moving on to 5400 office supplies. $760. Obviously, that's anything that we need, paper stamps, and then we personally, this committee has to do. But I can tell you probably, we didn't spend any of it last year either. So I mean, we try to utilize the help of the assistance of the town with paper and stuff like that. And we do joint adventures with the warrant. So it's one book. It doesn't have to be two separate books, so it's one book. So our recommendations are also in the same warrant, which also saves the town money. And obviously, whatever's left over also goes back into the general fund at the end of the year, come 1 July, and then it goes back in free cash. Moving 5,600. That's emergency reserve 50,000. I know there was. Yeah, emergency reserve was 50,000.
I would say, about the emergency reserve, Mr. Bennett brought this up at our meeting, when we discussed it. And I think it's in the policies that it should be increased a little bit year by year. We did not increase it this year because of the budget constraints. Perhaps it's something you should think about. I know that we don't seem to have demands that go up to the 50,000 or over it. I can see though this year, with the, possibly with the fuel tanks replacement, repair of the 1999 fire engine. Those are possibilities that may have to come out of that fund, as things develop. So, there is a possibility that that fund could be stretched.
Right. And we did talk like small upgrades, like I think this past.
2,500.
Yeah, it was,
What we discussed.
it was like $2,500. It'll be like 52.5, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like a huge, big number, but again, we also take into consideration, snow and ice and the other needs of the town. But these dollars are very important for, unforeseen things that happen that aren't budgeted for. But yeah, so that's 50,000. That's all I have, unless I have any questions.
There's a propensity to say, what is the historical use? So demand-based or trend-based, but I think your point of the cost of things, if that's what the purpose of an emergency fund, you should be able to react to what actually something is required. So if the DPW comes back or something other, it's gonna be based on, if you only had $20 in there, you're like, but I had, something that costs $125, right? Because that's the going rate for these things. So I understand the necessity to do it like that rather than trend based.
Right.
I don't think that number has been increased for years.
Nope.
right?
It's
So-
been the same since at least 2016.
But it seems to be that the requests seem to be, the emergency culvert repair, which is in the, $7,000 to $15,000 range. End of year
This is
thing.
for unforeseen, like it's not like all of a sudden something,
Right.
50K is only gonna get you.
Right.
But in the last 2 or 3 years, all we've spent is maybe, I think it was design work on the Main Street Bridge. To say we spent some money to save some money.
Right.
But it seems to be always under $30,000 the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, if you had added up every year, you'd be able to pay for the Main Street Bridge.
Well, like John says, I mean, that's an amount that it's gonna roll into free cash. So. Yeah. All right. Any questions on advisory overall? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. We're still short a member though, so if everybody wants to spend some time with us, please.
There's the plug. Yep. Let's,
We have four.
Yeah,
We have 4.
we started out with 8 people watching. Oh, it just changed. So the 5 or 6 people that are watching, at least on the YouTube page.
Oh, excellent. Well, they can send to their friends. You want to move to select board? Is that what we said?
Well. Yep. You're doing very well. Let's go select board. I believe that's page 1, isn't it?
Yep. See our budget in the book. I just want to go over some of the goals for fiscal year 25. Complete the tennis pickleball courts at Gilman Waite, working with the Parks and Recreation Commission. 2, complete Scout Hall. 3, work to get the playground and parking lot at Fulton Park out to bid, working with the grant writer administrator and the Parks and Recreation Commission. Secure the necessary construction funding and get the Main Street Bridge project out to bid. 5, complete the school, cottage, and Vernon Street project funded by CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. 6, work with the developers and see the completion of the Baldwin School apartments at the former site of the Baldwin School. A lot of work went into that, and we're almost there. And we learned that they secured the funding. It's actually interesting. I was speaking with the developer actually the other day, and they still haven't received their letter from the state yet. So they secured the funding. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, and you see in there the organizational chart. This was started a while back. We've updated a little bit here and there.
Since we're talking select board's budget, and I've already filed a with the clerk. Oh my gosh, what's the term?
Disclosure.
Conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest. I'm just gonna sit out of this
Yep.
budget discussion. So.
I knew where you're going.
Yep.
Moving to the 5100 account. You have in here town administrator, assistant town administrator, the administrative assistant, the grant writer, and as well as the select board stipends per member, which comes to be $265,010. And my salary adjustments subject to a satisfactory performance review by the select board.
And your contract's all set, right, Adam?
Correct.
Okay, for 3 years?
3 years.
Excellent.
It will be entering year 2.
This would be entering year 2 of it.
Right. The FY25 will be entering year 2.
Excellent.
Any questions on this page?
Nope.
Select board employee support, 5110. These are,
No, he's got to stay up for this entire. Yeah.
this includes the art for the MMA conference. There have an increase there. We had quite a bit of attendance this past time around. As well as the reimbursables, parking meals, so board members or the staff go up there, select board staff, then we have those sufficient funds in the book. Any looking at a total employee support budget of 10,000, any questions here?
Was reimbursables enough? Because I'm thinking to myself of what I submitted for reimbursables from just the MMA, and I look at that number and I'm like, ee.
Well, that's why, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
The MMA, you have to look at the MMA conference.
Mm-hmm.
That 4,200 plus the reimbursables, that's all for the annual.
Okay.
So it gives us roughly
Okay.
almost $5,000.
All right.
Any questions on this page? See none. Select board purchase of services, you see here, legal services, 80,000. I increased that request. I believe advisory committee was talking about this at one point too, on how low it was. I think I had it in there at 69,000.
I don't recall discussing that.
On the amount of, because basically this, what we had in there before, I didn't find was a sufficient amount, kind of like our snow and ice budget. We had to keep going back to town meeting for adjusting the number for litigation. So there's an increase in our legal services.
Ask a question. Mr. Chair, go ahead. Where are we this year with regards to legal services?
It's tight.
Close.
Very tight, especially the fact that the chair and I just recently got served at our home.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So there's some other litigation that came about, and then 25 Central Street, as well as the property off State Road, we've incurred some pretty, from just those two, quite a bit of legal expenses. And we still have other problem properties we're working on as well. On employee physicals, and is there any questions on this? So we'll look at a total budget of 80,539.
I know this is very minor, but I think the rental fee for a post office box is now $150.
think it depends on the size. Yeah, there are 3 different sizes, yeah.
Do you need that? Is it easier to have the mail come here? Oh,
We have the PO box. What bothers me about the PO box, like on the W-2s, the number was incorrect. You know, we followed up with paychecks. We're just trying to get those issues resolved. Sometimes contracting out, and trying to get to the right person is a challenge. I believe within the total amount of 80,539, we'll be able to absorb that. That's the question.
Yeah, I'm almost sorry to bring it up because it's
yeah.
almost nitpicking, but.
What is the possibility of having everything come here?
Well, and quite frankly, Holly handles this with the PO box, so I can only speak so much to it.
I would think that if we were to forego the PO box, we would need to purchase and install and maintain a box that has a high level of security and locks and things like that. And it may be a long ways until we find any cost savings from that.
Right, I think it would be a long way off before we saw cost savings, just.
It's
because
not
of
like
that
our
reason
mailbox
alone.
at
You're not
home,
just gonna, someone's not gonna walk in here and just plunk really important information on our floor in the
No.
hallway. I mean, it's gonna have to be really secure.
Organized.
No, but from a business perspective, though, it is a very common practice that the postal worker brings the mail into the building and hands it to somebody physically. I've done it for decades.
So how are they gonna do that on a Friday? Would be my thought.
That's a whole discussion.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Like, I'm just
No,
popping
I
out the
understand.
thought of it, you know what
I
I mean? Like,
understand.
Good.
I agree
brainstorm.
that, yeah, putting a secure box.
Yep.
I don't know how else you would do it.
Any questions on this 5,200? $5,400, you see here the request, I did another lump sum disallowed, Holly wasn't happy about, so. But you're looking at 1,198 for the 5,400 account. Any questions on this one?
Will that actually get us through the needs?
We've been pretty good about that. Any further questions? Okay, moving to our 5,600, our intergovernmental. You see here $30,000 for the reserve for equity, merit, and or COLA raises. This is the one that's transferable by the select board. And this comes to you usually around the fall.
The biggest one would come to us around the fall, because that's usually where
Correct, the biggest.
merit and COLA come through at that point, and then there may be other.
So like this
ad
account,
hocs throughout the year, but the biggest one comes in the fall.
an interesting takeaway with this one, I don't have authority to transfer out of this one.
Right, has to be us. Is this, what's this number versus 2024?
It's a decrease from 50 to 30,000.
Okay, you knocked 20,000 out of there.
Because if you noticed in your budget book, we're talking with the fire union this year. And we put the funds, we put some funds into the fire and the ambulance side for pay raises for the union, so that I figured that this would be.
So instead of that money having to come from here,
It's already in the
it's
budget.
already in their budgets. Okay,
So depending on negotiations,
it washes.
it could end up a little bit coming out of here and the budget, but we'll have to wait and see until negotiations are completed.
The hope is that it ends up washing.
I'll have to come back in front of the board for executive session once
Yep.
we get closer to that. And then we'll have to vote in open session once we come to an agreement on the union. But that's the logic behind that. Any other further questions on
Oh,
the slip?
just a comment. That would be nice to see across all the CBAs. Or
Well-
CBUs, whatever we want to call them.
Yeah, well, this year, because we just have the fire union coming up, but the following year we have police, dispatch, highway, sewer, all coming up at the same time. So next year will be really busy.
Just on that subject, does it make sense for the town to spread those out, or if we can with contract lengths so that they don't all come up in a given year? It doesn't matter.
The select board and I have adjusted some of them, that didn't fall fiscal year basis. Just this past, with the treasurer collector's contract, we adjusted on the fiscal year basis. We're working towards that, but I'm hoping, because generally when you negotiate a contract, depending on the negotiations, very rarely do you do a 1 year, you do a 3 year.
Correct.
And that's kind of just landed that year.
Just the way they fall.
Just the way they fall.
Yeah, just if there's a way to maybe make an adjustment a little longer, a little shorter on one of them here or there, just to get it broken up a little bit so that there's a little more clarity in budgeting out years.
Yeah, I know the state does have guidelines where it's a 3-year cap. So you have to fall
Oh, I
under that.
get it.
It's right. Again, it's one of those mandates they throw at us that's really obscure. You gotta do a little bit of digging to find. But
So that's that $30,000 for the select board's intergovernmental.
Yep.
And then the last one, we have our select board other account 5,700. And this is for, I believe John mentioned under advisory with the voters guide for annual town meeting and fall town meeting. Our advisories generally just sends us their recommendations and we include it within our budget for the whole packet that we pass out at the town meeting. And then our annual report. And the good news is we received the water audit, so we should be good for the audit to be in the annual report.
Oh, good.
I just learned of that from the general manager of light and water. So we were waiting on that. So he worked with us and got that to us.
as has been asked in previous department presentations to this point, that the proposed 1,000 for postage did take into account the increases, and are we comfortable with that number?
We're comfortable with that number. Yes.
Thank you.
One more quick question. The MMA, that's annual, that's a membership fee.
For
correct?
us.
Yeah, for the town.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a one-time membership
That
fee.
was my
Okay.
And then the advertising, like if we're having a public hearing.
Right, you have to go to the Gardner News, just like everything else.
Yes.
So you're looking at a total of 7,250 for that one.
This is gonna be a little bit nitpicky. But I mean, we have 375 copies of the annual report, 300 copies of the voter's guide for ATM. Is there a reason where there's more of the reports as opposed to the voter's guide? Because I know that's primarily where the annual report is distributed. So I mean, does it make sense to align those numbers? I mean, I know based on voter counts, we at the annual and the fall town meetings, we would not go through that many of the of the town meeting guides. So I mean,
That's a very fluid number, depending upon our participation. I usually check with the town clerk before we put in an order for whether it be the voter's guide for annual town meeting or the fall town meeting.
Yep.
To try to, because you always want to get it just right, where you don't want to have it where a voter shows up to town meeting and we run out of them.
right.
So I really work with Carol on that to try to get the best number that we need for the voters guides for the town meeting. And you're right, so there's times where we have extras. Annual report depends on who comes and picks one up. But Carol certainly tries to get those out. I believe they're at the elections. And then I'm going to see also and trying to get them available at the police department as well and the other fire department perhaps. So folks have an opportunity to go look through their annual report when the town releases them, because there's a lot of interesting information in those annual reports. And I know a lot of people really like, some folks keep them for each year. So
Just a question.
It's a good question. Questions on any of the select board presentation?
Nope.
I don't know.
Hearing none, we are approaching the lunch hour. And you can have someone, or I can go bring the chair back.
Mike. Hey, he did it to me when I recused myself.
Thank you.
Yell out the door. Yeah. 39, probably.
We're through
No,
the
just-
board in our time.
Do it after lunch. I'm just wondering what we're gonna be after lunch.
I'm like, oh boy, we just.
Terry, how many miles?
No changes.
have you
And I've
gone so
already-
far?
Steps.
So just sitting here.
Mr. Chair, are you guys all set to go on lunch?
Steps.
We all set to go on lunch?
Yeah, I think everyone's ready to go just a little bit early, gives us a little bit more time.
What are we doing?
Lunch.
Lunch.
Oh, who's buying lunch?
Yeah, we're good.
The selectman office, I believe, is taken care of.
Oh, excellent.
Do we have to move?
You
to
guys are
go to
great.
recess, or-
This must come out of employee support.
Or just,
I'll put a motion out there that we go into recess.
I'll second said motion.
Okay, any discussion on that? All right, the motion for the recess, those approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in recess as of 11:47.
And,
After lunch at 12:30.
and the advisory committee is also the select board, and we'll see you after lunch.